Again, this is Sethikus Boza, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame Healing Arts and Occult Science. And again, tonight I am speaking with the Thunder Wizard, Michael William Denney, and I am excited to have him on again for a second round, getting into the ancient tradition of our ancestors, getting into Nordic shamanism, getting into Seith and Galdr, and a lot of other things. Michael, I want to welcome you back to Black Earth Productions. It's great to see you again, man. How's things going?
Good, man. Really stoked to see you again. I'm really excited for what we're going to talk about. Really powerful stuff. I can feel it.
Awesome. So since the last time we spoke, how do you see things developing on your end in context to everything?
I guess the best way to answer that is I'm seeing things speeding up. We've definitely shifted into something new, and it's speeding up to the point where there's less lag time. When you make a decision, when you invest in a feeling, indulge in a reaction, intend something, I'm seeing things happening instantaneously now where it would have taken time. So for people who aren't ready for that, or for people who are living in the, what I would say the old Piscean way of doing things, which is seeing that there are people above us and then there are the servants beneath, and that's the setup. Whereas the Aquarian age is saying, we are coming together and becoming independent, and we are becoming self-sufficient while at the same time having cooperative relationships with others, because that's what it represents. And people who are going in the old Piscean way of doing things are crashing and burning faster than ever, and it's like a train wreck. And those people who are taking risks and moving toward things, it's like, shit is coming at them, success is coming at them in ways that they never thought, and they're having to, wow, what do I do? It's like being on a roller coaster ride. So I'm in that space too, where I'm having to sit myself down and say, hey, don't fuck this up. This is where things are going. It's not moving in another direction. It's going to keep going in this direction. So,
yeah, all of that in context, I could say, is what I am touching upon when I talk about the spiral is getting tighter and tighter and tighter. The gate is before us. The gate is there. But unless you're in alignment with it, you're not going to pass through that gate.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you brought up the way that we are conducting ourselves now with what's unfolding. And I find myself having to go at pace with everything because I tend to sometimes rush out ahead of myself. The scorpionic nature, like Aries, ruled by Mars, we just want to go for it. And that's been my attitude with things, and it's served me quite well. But I can see how strategy is necessary for what's unfolding, and realizing that we are integrating so much so fast all at once. It's hard for the brain sometimes to process certain things. So you do got to take time to do ritual. You do got to take time to pull back and just reflect upon everything that is being revealed to you as an individual, so that you can actually apply it to your existence instead of it being, kind of all up in your head and you don't know what's what. And since the last time we spoke, my connection to the ancestors and the gods and the goddesses has definitely become more powerful. I've had more dreams and visions and a lot more insight come to me into study with the mythos. And there's a lot of things I want to get into with you tonight in context to the age that we are coming into. We talked about the age of Aquarius, the age of technology, the age of knowledge coming back to the forefront, where we are really starting to remember who the fuck we are as not only individuals, but as a people, all races, all tribes, all creeds. The ancestors are awakening. One of the first things I want to get into with you is the first war that took place between the Aesir and the Vanir, and why it happened. That's the very first thing I want to get into with you, man, because that war, the play out of that within the unconscious, subconscious, is still something that we have going on within ourselves. And I would really like you to get into that now and unpack why this war took place.
Yeah. So the Aesir-Vanir War, for those who may or may not be familiar with, the Aesir, who represent the celestial deities and the Vanir, who represent the terrestrial deities. In the beginning of the universe, one of the terms for the Vanir is the elder gods. It has nothing to do with who came first. It has nothing to do with linear time. And so I'm going to explain what that means. But in order to first understand this war, we have to understand who these beings are, what they represent. And bear in mind, this is the beginning of the universe. And so if we apply it to ourselves, it's the beginning of any venture. It's the beginning of any relationship. It's the beginning of any awareness. You know, whether we're talking about a person's life of the universe, the life of an idea, it has a span of its existence. And in the beginning, there will be this war. So the Aesir represent the celestial deities, and the Vanir represent the terrestrial. So what happens in that war, let's focus on the entity known as Gulveig, which translates as the lust for gold. Now, according to the mythology, the lust for gold comes in and infects the Aesir, which then they see as a threat to their existence, and they then create this war with the Vanir. And then their ramparts, which means that their stone walls are ruptured. So understand that the Aesir live in one of 9 worlds. They live in the fort of the celestial gods. There's only one other fort in the 9 worlds, and that is Midgard, the middle fortress, which is where we live. All the other 7 worlds do not have fortress walls. So this is an important detail in the mythology. So this war between the Aesir and the Vanir, when it starts, it ruptures their wall, their fortress wall. And this has to happen. If it doesn't happen, the universe will not come into existence. So we first have to understand that everybody's experience is narcissistic, including these celestial deities. So from their experience, anything that violates what they narcissistically want to experience, they perceive as a threat. Gulveig means the lust for gold. So gold represents power, specifically the power of the elite, the power of the ruling class. And now the Aesir are filled with this lust for gold, this lust for power. That means that they didn't have that before. So now we have to ask the question, why? If we're talking about the creation of the universe, we have to understand where the different entities function. The Vanir live in Vanaheim, which is the home of change, experience, time, magic, fertility. That's why they're called the elder gods, not because they're older, but because they function within time, which means they experience and they gain wisdom through their experience. And their experience is through fertility, through sex, through creation, through indulgence. The Vedic equivalent of the Vanir is the Asuras, and they're seen as demons. They don't use the word demons like we do in the Western world. They use it in a different way, which means they're seeing things from the perspective of the celestial deities, and they see the Asuras as something that will taint them. This is the perception of the celestial deities. So the celestial deities live in timeless perfection. So it's important to understand that as the universe was beginning, the forces that we would call the Aesir lived in this static, bright, pure, timeless perfection. And that's because time had not come into existence yet in our universe yet. Once time started coming into existence, that was the eruption of the Vanir, who then infected the Aesir with the need to feel that they had to control things, because now things are out of control. From their perspective, everything's falling apart. Death, disease, corruption, greed, all of these things. And what's interesting is they themselves are the ones that first corrupted with the need to control, because now things are out of control. They hate that about themselves, and so instead of focusing on themselves, they focus on the Vanir, because like stars are constantly ejecting energy out. Unless we're talking about a black hole, energy is constantly going out. So the Aesir, that way, they project. Everything is a projection, which is why When we have people who are really super religious, they identify with the celestial deities, and they are also very judgmental because they project everything out. Whereas if you have people who are worshiping the Vanir or the Roker or those kinds of things, you find a different mindset. They'll be more tolerant, they'll be more open-minded to change and things that are forbidden. See what I mean? So we have to have this change. We have to have change, time, death, destruction, things that we would perceive as negative. We have to have it. Otherwise, the universe doesn't come into existence, period. End of story. Let's talk about how stars work, and you'll understand what it's like to be a celestial deity. They have so much mass and so much gravity that the molecules of the gas are being compressed to the point where they're, we have, what do you call that? Nuclear
fusion.
Nuclear fusion, right. Which is, it's not breaking it apart, it's compressing it down, and that explosion of compressing it down is what creates the light, the heat, all of that. So as long as that process is going on, they're going to burn themselves out. That's why they don't want time to come in. And this is where we get Indra and Thunar, and these gods act as the buffer between the two worlds. And you have a question that you asked me about that, which we can get to, but first we'll understand this. They create this buffer. Without those boundaries, nothing would exist. So according to the Vedic mythology, what we have is the sun, which is a celestial deity, just like I represented, sits in the east and worships Indra for the power to rule and long life, which means that if it weren't for the thunder god who creates those boundaries, if it weren't for the magnetic force which slows down the impact of gravity, then the sun would burn itself out. This is what the Aesir are trying to constantly have, which means if they had their way, everything would come to a standstill, which means we would come to a standstill. We wouldn't be able to function. So people have to understand this when they want to identify with the Aesir as the true and the pure. Understand that if they became that, or if the Aesir had complete control, their life would come to a standstill. And so that's why they started that war. And so that war represents the beginning of time to create. And that, of course, is going to come to an end, which we would call Ragnarok. And that is going to culminate, and the gods are going to die. And they simply don't want to die. So,
yeah, one of the things that struck me getting into the war of the Aesir and the Vanir was Golveg. And I have another question for you. Is Golveg one of the Jotun?
It's a good question because, she could definitely morph into that. I see her as simply the force that expresses itself, because it's interesting. It's not like we hear about her living among the Vanir and doing this. She all of a sudden just appears.
Right. And that's one of the things I wanted to get into with you in context to the Old Ones' resurgence into the realm of Anaheim, which was a great concern of Odin, because he knew what the Old Ones' agenda was. And getting into study with this, what I discovered is that Golveg, who I think is actually one of the Jotun, started to teach dark sorcery to the Vanir.
Right.
And that was the main concern with Odin.
And the Aesir, if we look at the myth, it's because the Aesir started lusting after that dark sorcery, which is control. Because what is magic? Magic is the attempt to change, control reality. The Aesir aren't comfortable with that. Let me give you a different perspective on it. That's their self-directed insecurity, their guilt. They lusted after it.
That's their unconscious projection manifesting.
They lusted after they started wanting that because things started changing and they wanted to preserve themselves. And so they started going after the very thing that they said they hate. And then what happens? They start judging themselves, and then they start a war over it. You guys brought this into it. They didn't. The myths are clear. It just sort of erupted. as a result of the Vanir coming into existence.
Right. As a result of the unconscious projection, I would say, of all the celestial gods.
Yeah.
And their unconscious intention. Now, the interesting thing I'm discovering with the dynamic between the Aesir and the Vanir, this is us.
Yeah.
This is us in projection and reflection.
Yep.
And in context to dark sorcery, this is an issue. This is an issue all across the board because of that lust for gold, that lust for power, that lust of wanting to be in the position of domination and control.
Yeah.
Now, when I got into study with this, I didn't see Odin necessarily wanting to be in control of anything. He was just trying to preserve the harmony of the universe. But it didn't fucking matter. It happened, right? It all went down, and Odin didn't have the magic of Seith before that. He didn't know it. He didn't understand it. He had the runes, obviously. But there was this other element getting into Seith and Galdr, the true magic of the ancestors, and how both are necessary for that balance and harmony to be solidified in the universe. And so magic being neutral, it can go either way. And when it's not in alignment, it's gonna throw everything into fucking chaos, which is what happened with the Aesir and the Vanir. And both of them on either side became vain. They became vain in their own eyes. And I think, honestly, that it was a trick of the Jotun, of the Thors, trying to slip in and then take control over the whole goddamn fucking gamut. And I think that both the Aesir and the Vanir were tricked. They were tricked to go to war with one another and not seeing the true enemy, which was that unconscious mental projection that then manifested in their reality, in their worlds, in everything that unfolded. You know what I'm saying?
So let me jump in here for a second.
Yeah.
All right. So remember, everything starts with an assumption. If we change our assumption, everything else changes. So let's change the assumption a little bit. And you mentioned Odin. Now, when you mention Odin, I see this very mischievous, I see Odin as very mischievous. Loki would be the shadow side of Odin. They're both mischievous. So what if Odin starts the war knowing, not trying to prevent the chaos, but knowing it will start the chaos?
Right. There's all these different ways we can look at it.
So go there with that. And he's
right.
This, and the Aesir are here, and they're stuck, and the Vanir are there. And he says, let's get this train rolling here. Mm-hmm. And so he starts the war with the knowledge of wanting to create that chaos that we think we don't want. You know how I feel about enlightenment. I do not believe that there is such a thing as a static achieved. I just don't believe that.
Right, like an arrival point with it.
It's just, that to me is denial.
Right.
Life is all about this dynamic change. If you look at, I'm wearing here, this is the reason why the Christians hijacked this symbol, is because this represents dynamic balance of the 5 elements and the forces of the universe. And so if you want to mess with things, then you have like this kind of a cross. That's like right. You're messing with things on a psychological level. But if you want to bring dynamic balance, you wear this. So on one side you have the east, and then you have the west. This represents the giants, like you were talking about, which are the forces of expansion. Without it, there's no life. Life starts with an expansion. On the other side, you have constriction, which is the Vanir, which represents wind. This represents ether, this represents wind. And it's like also a breath. In order to live, you have to inhale. If you keep inhaling, you're going to explode. At some point, the inhalation has to stop, and then you have to exhale. But they're opposite each other, expansion and constriction. So when we look at it from that perspective, then there isn't any good guy or bad guy. They each have their own agenda. And if left to itself, imbalance is nothing more than one person's agenda takes too much space, and it's taking out the rest of everything. So there's always a war, and this happens, and then you put that out, and then the fire comes, and then the water comes, and then the heat, and then the cool. It has to do that, otherwise it's just static nothing, which is denial. That's death. For the Aesir, they need that to survive. That to live eternally means no more movement. For the Vanir, it's like we have to move. So don't try and stop that. Let's figure out a way how to overcome these elites. The elites are saying, let's figure out a way to keep these guys out of our... It all depends on where you are. We're in the middle.
Right.
So we are going to be constantly being torn apart in all kinds of different directions. The illusion is, if we let ourselves get talked into buying into somebody's agenda, whether it be the Aesir or the Vanir or the Jotuns or whomever. That's why we have the elves. Of all of the beings, the elves are the closest to being in full dynamics. And even they are on their way out. You know, they're standing at the edge of existence, and they're looking back, and they're giving knowledge, but they're going somewhere we don't even understand. To us, it's death. We don't even understand. And it's all perspective. For instance, like martial arts, right? When you put committed force towards me, I'm going to redirect that. So I trained in a completely different kind of martial art, which I won't go into explaining here, but it doesn't go into either of those kinds of things. And so the jiu-jitsu guys would want to fight me, and they operate on very similar kinds of things. And I would say, okay, and I would walk towards them, and then they would try to lock me up into something, and the next thing I knew, I was behind them. They said, how did you do that? And I said, I didn't do anything. I didn't give you anything. And they don't know what to do. We're like that in life, in religion. We want to side with the Aesir or the Vanir or the Jotuns or attack. If we don't do that, we end up in the middle. And all of this energy flows through and around us. This is why human beings have the potential to be greater than all the gods, if only they can realize that they are everything. Odin is the representation of that on the celestial, because he did that. He died to himself, which is just like going up against an opponent and giving them nothing to fight. And then what ends up happening is you destroy yourself through all of that energy coming through you. And if you can keep your identity in the space of not having an identity, you are Odin. But even we have the ability to have Odin look upon us that way. We have an ability to experience limitation and be beyond it. This is what it's all about. But the illusion is to pick a team.
Right.
Once you pick the team, then you can be defeated and you can be destroyed.
Exactly. And that is getting into the mystery of all mysteries. And this is what Odin told me.
Yeah.
This is what Odin showed me. He said, you need both. We are both the light and the darkness. We need both the magic of the Aesir and the Vanir in alignment with what is beyond even the gods. Okay? And the reason I think this war took place, both sides could not see the darkness within themselves. Their projection of you know, taking the fuck over and being the ones in the position of domination and control. And that's that lust for gold, Golveg. That's that Jotun consciousness. That's that Thor's daemon shit that we are all dealing with, even the gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
Getting into soul code genetics and the distortions, and you're talking about the cross, right? The Christian cross is a distortion of that cross that you've got there. It's an inversion. And it's actually in the DNA. You can look it up. It's fucking nuts. But this cross is literally in the DNA as a distortion of consciousness, man. It's in the DNA, like scientifically fucking proven, right? So no wonder they took that, and it's right on down to the level of the DNA on an unconscious, subconscious level where it's running our fucking systems, and we don't even know it's fucking happening.
That's brilliant.
And that's why the ancestors are starting to awaken, because they're starting to push this out. The Vanir and the Aesir, they're coming together. they're making peace again, like it talks about in the Eddas. This story is going to keep playing itself out again and again and again with humanity until we fucking catch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
You mentioned in your email to me, you mentioned Hirokin.
Yeah, I want to get into the mystery of Hyrrokin, what she actually represents in context to dark sorcery, and also why the gods prevented Thor from actually destroying her.
Yeah, yeah. I was really interested in that when you brought that up, and so I wanted to do some more research into it. I'll be honest, I have a lot more to go when it comes to her, but again, we look at the symbolism. It's the death of a celestial deity, which is Galdr, and Galdr is the soul. And he represents, the story of Galdr represents human beings coming into incarnation, covered underneath the earth. The gods weeping over him is really what they do whenever a human soul comes into manifestation. Yeah, I need to kind of punch that up because it's so easy right now to see human souls as being these chained victims of other beings, which can happen. I have no doubt that that happens, especially if that's what they project on. But from the perspective of the gods, the soul, the human soul, is the thing in Asgard that brings the light and the joy to them. They mourn over the loss of that light. The death of Galdr represents that. The mind, which is the moon, she has to go with him. Because what does she do? She reflects him. The moon reflects the light of the sun. She has to go into incarnation with him. So you never have a soul without a mind. Never. So they're doing their death ritual and they're trying to push the boat, which says that the boat that he's on is the biggest possible boat. The gods can't even do it. The gods can't even bring us into manifestation. They can't do it. So they call upon Hyrrokin, and maybe you pronounced it better than I did, Hyrrokin. And she shows up as a giant whose name means smoky something. Something's having to do with smoke. That's the only part.
Smoked fire.
Right. So smoke represents illusion. And she comes riding a giant wolf, and she is using snakes, in order to guide the wolf. So wolves represent appetite. You can call them desire, you can call them whatever, but it's an appetite like...
Could you say in context to Hyrrokin's wolf that this is the poisoned wolf?
It can be that. Again, it depends on which perspective you want to look through it.
Right.
I see her as death. So if you want to use the word poison, yes, she's death. Only death, which would be in connection to the Vanir and the Jotun. Jotuns represent the limiting forces of the universe: time, gravity, death. There are things that we perceive as these horrible things, but without them, the universe wouldn't function. The universe can't function without death and resurrection and all the stuff that, sadness and misery and happiness, we can't function without. So she's riding that. Now, Odin's warriors couldn't even keep it still. They had to tackle it, which is what we do. So imagine the power she must have.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to ride that. And what does she use? She uses snakes, which represents all kinds of different things. Treachery, poison, secret knowledge, wisdom. Again, it depends on where you look at. And it just, on this perspective of the Aesir Vanir war, let me insert the Vedic tradition, which we can use to sort of give another window. Vedic tradition. The first deception in the universe is done by the celestial gods, not by the terrestrial gods. The terrestrial gods were teaming up with the celestial gods to help them stir up the nectar of immortality. And they were using a snake to stir it up. And they were all there in cooperation with the idea that everybody was going to get some and everybody was going to become immortal. And the gods, the celestial gods, went aside and said, we got to bullshit these guys because we can't let them have power.
Okay, is that everything that you're saying in context to the golden apples.
Yeah. Yeah. Golden apples. It's not like, yeah, golden apples, again, the power, all of that stuff. Yeah.
Right. The nectar of immortality, eternal youth, all of that.
Oh, yeah. And of course, so whoever has the nectar of immortality is going to run the universe. So the celestial gods say, we want it because we don't want them to have it. Mm. So the snake, which is also Loki, Rahu in the Vedic tradition, he is the only one that goes and disguises himself as a celestial deity so he can get the nectar of immortality. Now he gets found out. As he's drinking it, he gets found out. And then Vishnu, who is dancing around pretending to be this beautiful woman, and all the rest of the terrestrial gods are looking at her with lust, and they forget about the nectar of immortality. This was all the conspiracy of the Aesir. So you think about what kind of people are the people who think about conspiracies the most. It is people who are conservative-minded, which means what? They are more likely to create conspiracies, which is why they're afraid of them. Like you said, it's the unconscious projection of their own guilt.
Yeah. Which then manifested with the Jotun, with Golveg, with Hyder and Arboda.
Yeah.
What do they actually all represent? Could you say that they are the shadow side of the Norns themselves?
Wow. That's deep. I mean, you can obviously see by my reaction that hit me pretty hard. I can't find any flaw in that thought process. Right. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Norns. Again, I want to talk about where I learned this. You know, this experience came from. What we do is we use the 8-sided doors. We use the 8 gates. We use the whatever, however you want to look at it. And there's always, we're facing one of the 8 directions, and it's you're transferring energy. And bottom line is this: if you were to see me doing what looks like some strange weird dance, you would see what looks like me pivoting into multiple directions of the 8 doors. My experience is that I'm not moving. I am having the doors move in front of me. Mm. Your perception is you see me move. When you fight a demon using this, they see you disappear and appear and disappear and appear because they can't move into multiple doorways like that. So when I think about the spindle of the Norns spinning time and creation and reality, our experience is that things are happening to us. And so we want to petition the Norns so that we can change that. But the Norns cannot be petitioned that way. There is a way to change that, but they will respond because they're forces of nature, and they have to respond to the laws of nature. That's how they function.
Okay, one question I have about the Norns real quick.
Yeah.
It says in the mythos that they are weaving the fates of gods and men. Right, there's that. But go a little bit deeper with it and consider that they are in the position to weave what we intend as individuals.
That's where I'm getting at, is that if they can only respond to the way that we are experiencing every moment, right? Because what happens is because time is not linear. There is the ever now, and then there is the creation of the past, and then the past creates the future, right? So what's happening is that if you continue to buy into whatever thought process you're choosing to indulge in, which is what we all do, we don't know it. We think we're happening to it and we're reacting, but it's just this self-repeating thing that we create. We indulge in a feeling which creates a past, which creates a future to which we react, which creates a feeling, and it keeps going on and on like that. But the moment that we have the power within us to stay in that neutral space, which is what I'm talking about, where everything else moves around you, when you stay in that neutral space, you change your intention. You change what you choose to indulge in. And that then creates a different past, which creates a different future. The Norns haven't changed at all. You haven't altered them in the slightest bit. They are doing what they do. They are forces of nature, and they respond to the laws of nature. We are the only beings who have the ability to change our nature, which means when we do change our nature, the Norns respond, which means we have an experience that we've created something magical. And that's not what's happening. It's an illusion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this is one of the things that the Norns themselves revealed to me. I had an experience between 2000 and 2005. I was in the ministry at the time, and we were doing some kind of outreach shit. All these people came to the park and stuff, and we were on our way out when all of a sudden a young man appeared to me in the middle of the field, just out of fucking nowhere. Walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And he starts in telling me that I know more than everybody there. He starts just dropping bombs of knowledge, and I'm just like going, what the fuck is this guy even talking about? And he looks right at me and he said, "Weep as to be wept."
Say that again. What did he say?
He said, "Weep as to be wept." He said, once you come into the understanding of this, you will have reached the point of being in alignment with your destiny. And it wasn't too long ago that the Norns actually came to me and told me the secret. And what they showed me is that they sit at the well of Urd and weep for what they weave. They weep for what they are weaving because this is what we are intending, or whatever the fuck else is out there in context to the universe is intending. And they weep for what they weave. I said, oh my God, that is exactly what this guy was talking about. Okay. Now, when I was talking to him, this is fucking crazy. By the time we were full on into the conversation, it was just him and I in the middle of the field. And he was looking, and he had fire in his eyes, man. It was nuts. And I said, look, man, I got to go. I appreciate you coming to me and talking to me. As I started to walk away, I turned back. He was gone. This guy literally disappears from my sight. This is what he told me. He said, "Weep is to be wept." And so what I've come to realize with that, this is the secret of the Norns. And what the Norns want us to know. They want us to get control of our own individual spindles in context to the energy force within the circle of the magician, setting forth our intention and alignment. Otherwise, it's just going to be fucking chaos, death, destruction. Yes, that is a part of things, but that's not the ultimate outcome of the wisdom that's there, I think, for mankind. I think our generation and future generations need to know the result of war, but also the wisdom of peace in the midst of it, you know. And one of the things that really struck me, the token of the gods. They took this token and turned it into a man. And it was said that there was no question that he could not answer because he was wise even beyond the gods. Like you were saying, he was human, but he knew it. He knew what the fuck was going on. And that to me was just absolutely fucking powerful, getting into self-study with this man. That is our potential here in Midgard, because all worlds of consciousness converge here. This is where it happens. As far as I'm concerned, we are in the highest realm that we could possibly ever fucking be in physicality. It's not out there. It's not in Asgard. It's not in Vanaheim. It's not there. It's all here. Right. It's all here.
This is the spearhead of evolution.
Right.
All of the deities, all of the entities of the universe are looking to us to spearhead their evolution. That's what we don't understand. And it's beautiful and tragic all at the same time, because the only way it can work is if we don't remember who we were. Because if we remembered who we were, then we're going to have a cheat sheet and it's not going to be honest. It won't work. It only works when it's happening honestly. What I mean by remember is, like, before I was incarnated, I was this, this infinite spirit. Well, I don't remember that. I only remember being born and crying and, going through being a little kid. Because if we remembered that, there would be no urgency. There would be no possibility of being deceived. It's on that edge of in between being deceived and finding the truth within that. That's that emptiness space, that space of dynamic emptiness, that we can then intend something different and new each moment, which gives us a new timeline, which is when they're weaving timelines. And that's all that they're doing. We change which timeline they create. We do that.
Right.
But we don't think we do.
Right, and that is the secret of the Norns. That's what the Norns revealed to me.
Right.
We are the ones intending everything here in Midgard.
Right. So we're talking about the difference between the transformation of death, that kind of destruction into evolution, as opposed to, pointless chaos destruction, which is just continuing to focus on, I wish I had that, and why can't they do this, and I did that, and it just creates more of that. And that's something to weep over.
Right.
I agree.
And so Golveg being the manifestation of the lust for gold, it's interesting because gold also represents higher consciousness, the expansion of consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Turning lead into gold, getting into alchemy.
Yeah.
And the circle of the magician, and I encourage everyone to actually fucking do it. When you stand there within the circle and set forth your intention, you are literally in connection with the Norns.
Yeah.
But are you in alignment? If you're not, you're going to be manifesting some fucked up bullshit in your fucking existence, along with that having an effect on everybody else, having an effect on the aggregate, and we are pitifully unaware of what we are actually doing here. Because it's like what you said about how people have this perception that life is happening to us. That's that victim mentality. That's that bullshit. That's that fucking excuse that keeps people from actually coming into alignment and becoming the masters of themselves, taking the true initiation onto the true magical path.
Right.
The true magical path. Because without that inner guidance, and see, this is a major fucking problem with people that want to get into the magic and the occult, all this kind of shit. They're not making connection to their true core essence first.
Right.
And cleansing and purging and going through that healing process before they actually start doing some real fucking magic.
And that all starts with the base assumption. If the base assumption is that you are unsafe, that you are unloved, that you are not immortal, if you start with that, then you say to yourself, I need to do black magic because I need power, because without that I won't be able to control. But if you start with a completely different assumption, which is very frightening, because you will be vulnerable to the immensity of the infinite universe. If you start with the assumption that you are everything, that means then you can accept that what you intend is going to be everything you've ever wanted. But that is the scariest thing in the world, and that is, again, something to weep for. When somebody has the choice within them, because, again, in order for this to work, we have to feel as though we don't know where we are. People ask me all the time, well, why do we reincarnate? We don't remember. Because if you remembered, you wouldn't be honest. If you are in the place of not remembering, and you can choose to operate from your joy, which will scare the shit out of you, because you will feel vulnerable and weak, or you can operate from some false idea of being protected. And then it's like the magic is lost, and then, yes, everybody weeps. It's about being in that place of fearlessness. That place of fearlessness is also the place of complete vulnerability to the infinite universe. And that will kill you. That is Odin. That is the experience of Odin, dying to himself. And when he dies to himself, he then is given the runes, which give him the ability to do exactly that. The thing about the runes is the runes are like a magical decoder ring. You know?
Fuck yeah, they are. We just had a very, very powerful session. You actually did a rune reading for me, and it was fucking bang the fuck on. Let me tell you, everybody out there listening, the runes are not to be trifled with.
Yeah.
They're to be respected. This is the fire letter codex of the planetary fucking Templar itself. Yeah. The planetary Templar, this is akin to the 9 worlds and the 8 gates. And it's interesting because other people in my inner circle that are on other, higher occult science material are actually confirming this in context to the Nordic tradition, man. It is flawlessly in alignment with everything. And it is so unbelievably powerful what I sense and feel going on, the awakening of the ancestors and everything that's coming back into alignment, coming out of the Kali Yuga. And now we're approaching the time where even the gods and goddesses themselves are going to evolve along with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to be in that position of that emptiness, the runes are one example. I'm trying to put into words, but it's like when you're in the middle of that emptiness and everything is around you, you have the ability to then, turn the universe in a different way. I don't mess with the runes because if I start teaching a rune, that rune happens in my life. And it's not like I have any control over it. To imagine Odin having the power to have the mastery of the runes to that degree, that means that he literally has nothing to defend. That's important. He has nothing to defend. He has nothing to protect. If you have something to defend, if you have something to protect, you can be destroyed. And if you play around with the runes out of a desire to gain power because you feel weak and you need something to gain power, and though if the runes, the universe is fairly kind, because for most people, the runes do not respond like that. They know when to back off until you know differently. And once you know differently, you're completely responsible for what happens, which is why I don't mess with them. Because they don't see me that way. And when I do them, then, that rune comes into my life and I get torn to shreds. And it doesn't matter if it's a good rune or a bad rune. It doesn't matter if it's Fehu or if it's Yukwaj. I get torn to shreds. So this is Odin, to be in that position of there's nothing left to be torn away. There's nothing left to be destroyed. You are pure power, which means at the same time you are 100% surrendered to the universe. And that's the fine line to gain power. And I'm telling you from experience, there's a point in time when I had experience and I could do shit you might not believe. It was because I was simultaneously surrendered to infinity, and when you surrender to it, it obeys you. But that's the only time. You can't have it if you're not surrendered. I'm hammering away at this because the idea of black magic is I'm taking some knowledge so that I can change the world to fit whatever it is you think you don't deserve. Because if you don't think you deserve it, that's when you go after black magic. If you believe you deserve something, then it's not black magic. And you don't have anything to hide. You don't have anything to prove. There's no intensity behind trying to manifest it. It's just natural. I deserve that. But if you don't think you deserve it, then you have to go do some dark act and gain control over this and make this happen. And now
Right. And it does go back to the intention of the individual and all of the unconscious mental projection that they're not even aware of why they do what they do. This is why the arts of gnosis are so fucking important, actually getting into the mechanics of how we operate, why we think the way we think, why we see things the way we see things, why we feel things the way we feel things, getting into astropsychology. Now, you're more versed in the Vedic tradition, which is something I apply to my life as well, and it completely resonates, but also the Western. I'm more versed in the Western and use the Western. And see, the interesting thing between the two, the axis of the Earth, 23.5 degrees, is the difference between Vedic and Western astropsychology. And see, and this is why I want to know it all. I just can't stick with one. Yeah. Because I see the wisdom of remembering what I have to work with so that I can navigate this fucking reality field correctly without putting a self-imposed limitation, I'll say, on myself.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's just me. That's just how I operate because of my disposition. Other people, it's fine either way as far as I'm concerned.
You bring up a good point, and it's maybe you can confirm this, but I've had this feeling that what Western astrology focuses on, because as I understand it, the tropical zodiac is the Earth relative to the sun, as opposed to the sidereal, which is the Earth relative to the sky above it. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense, because then this is an astrology of the soul, Western astrology.
Right, the soul spark. Right.
The soul and the evolution of the soul. So looking at a Western astrological chart is going to help you on that level, whereas Vedic is more concerned with what's happening in the physical, which is the ascendant. They use the ascendant rather than the sun signs, because the ascendant is your physical body and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Now, one thing about astropsychology that I absolutely agree with is that moon is the most important, because this is how our thought and emotion is operating. And if we're not the master of our thoughts and emotions, then what the fuck? Life is happening to you and you feel like that fucking victim. Yeah. Instead of being in that position within the circle of the magician to command the universe. The universe is waiting for us to command it. This is what the universe revealed to me.
Yeah.
It's not like we are in the thralls of fucking chaos and this fucking dark magic. We are, if we're not in alignment, though.
Right.
If we're not in alignment with the spindle, in connection to the Norns, and I want to get a little bit deeper into this, the Norns and the power of their spindle, the literal fucking mathematics of the universe. This cannot be disputed or refuted. The 9 is the spindle. In context to the magic of weird, in context to the 396, the triangulation, which is the cause point for polarity within ourselves, is the manifestation of the war between the Aesir and the Vanir within ourselves when we are not in alignment within the circle. Because unless 0 and 9 are in alignment, you're fucking on these infinite timelines and feedback loops that are keeping you in absolute and total fucking ignorance of who you are and what you're actually capable of here in Midgard, and is why we actually came here, man.
Yeah.
So touch upon that.
Again, assumptions, my big thing. If you have a false assumption, every belief and conclusion that you reach on top of that assumption is also going to be incorrect. If you start with a correct assumption, then your conclusions will be built on sturdy ground. So
Occam's razor, man.
Yes. Yeah.
Occam's fucking razor.
It won't matter how deep or how brilliant somebody is if their first base assumption about themselves and their relationship to the universe is off. And what you said is, I mean, I love it, because the universe does not know that you don't know who you are. It thinks you know. So if you operate from the assumption that you're a victim and that everything is out to get you, the universe goes, oh, we're playing that game. Okay. And it just gives that to you. If you operate from the assumption that I deserve everything, and if I listen to myself and trust myself, which most people don't trust themselves, then I will know exactly where I want to go. And the universe goes, yeah, let's give you that. Somebody responded to one of my videos. I don't remember which one it was, but somebody said something along the lines of that I was like one of the Kardashians, and, you know, who are all these people that are out there trying to make all this money, and the rest of us sit by and watch. And I responded back and said, if you can understand that phrase of you sitting by and watching, and you can figure out what the problem is with that, you'll be able to fix whatever it is you think is wrong.
Yeah, you got to get onto the goddamn fucking playing field and start to carve out your goddamn fucking destiny.
And this is again, we're talking about
that's not going to happen to anybody.
No, it's not going to. Nobody's going to show up at the door and knock at the door. That's why the whole Jesus mythology. Jesus shows up and he says, "Hey, I'll take it on for you. Here, I'm knocking at the door. Let me in." That's just, it doesn't work like that. You're already there. And if somebody, you know, again, if you start with the base assumption, I am God, and not only am I God, but what I want, which not I think I want, but what naturally comes out of me and says, I love this, this feels good, that is the will of the universe. I want to talk about God's will. God's will is your happiness, your joy, not your distraction. There's a difference. Distraction is not joy. You die to yourself, then you feel that, and the universe just gives it to you. It says, here's this, here's that. But again, if you operate from the assumption that you're not, you're limited, you have to be careful, you don't trust yourself, whatever your narcissism is, then the universe goes, we can do that one too.
Right.
It doesn't make any decision one way or another. It says, you're God, you must know what you're doing. So yeah, we'll create the war, and there's the destruction, and there's the, you must, clearly you want to figure something out by being that miserable and suicidal. So, okay, we'll create that for you.
Right.
And you can change it.
So with that, can you touch a little bit more upon weird?
Weird. That which has been woven. That's what the word weird means according to my understanding. Weird is
It's fucking weird, man.
It is fucking weird. That's why we still have that word, you know?
Right. I love that. I love that, man.
We've gotten rid of so many of our powerful words, but we haven't gotten rid of that one. We can't. Doesn't matter who you are. Everybody says it. How many times a day do we say the word weird?
Oh, plenty.
We clearly have an unconscious understanding. When people used to say that, back when, if something happened, you'd go, weird.
I was the weird one.
Right.
Now I know why.
Yeah.
Now I know absolutely why I was the weird, because I'm just in context of everything we're talking about.
Because you carry that spindle within you, like you talk about.
Right.
And you carry that with you, and what happens is when you come into contact with other people's weird, it fucks it up. And they can't keep their bullshit, victim mentality going. It won't work. So they either have to learn to align to you, which is why you're a teacher, or they have to project that you're whatever it is they are and make you the enemy. This is what teachers are. And I never understood this. I went through this as a kid too. As a kid, I was constantly being picked on. And guys twice my size would walk up to me and say, I don't like you.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I do? I didn't do anything.
Yeah, I got my fucking ass kicked when I was a kid. I got in so many fights, and I was fighting growing up. It's true what you're saying. That unconscious projection upon the vibrational correspondence, it's here in the reality field. It's in alignment and doesn't even know it's in alignment yet because I forgot who the fuck it is. At the same time, though, I did have this inner knowing that I didn't understand. Now I'm coming into the feeling. It's not a thought form. It's not necessarily even an emotional charge. It just is. It just is there, and it's always been there.
Yeah.
So the magic of weird in context of the 9, how do we actually come into alignment with that and wield it correctly? I think the way that you wield it is completely unique, given over to the astropsychological disposition, how we're navigating what I call the solar spiral. And then you got everything happening on the galactic level, the galactic spiral. This is getting into stargates of consciousness and other star systems and all this stuff that people talk about in context to Orion and the Pleiades and Arcturus and all this other stuff. That also is a part of everything, including what we're talking about. So it's not just one thing here. Everything that everybody talks about, as far as I'm concerned, is fucking happening. It's just a question, okay, what are you connected to and how are you navigating?
It's not an either or, it's multiples. It's like as a kid, I remember my mom had one of those crystal chandeliers, and she would clean it. She would take the little, the crystal off. And I would look through one of the facets. And if you look at one of the facets, you see all the other facets. All the other pictures are coming through, but you're only looking through one facet. Through that one facet, you can see everything else. You turn it around, look through another facet, same thing. So each path, whatever it is that people are practicing, is one facet. So everything goes back to that center. To get back to weird, to understand how weird works, this is how I look at it. The way I look at it is, again, the now, the ever unfolding now. In the ever unfolding now, every single nanosecond, you are having a thought, a reaction, an intention, all the time. Each one of those things creates a past. That past then creates your debt. So the Vedics call it karma, but our ancestors, which means the same thing. We create a debt that you have to fulfill. You have to live it out. The way to master that is to master the now, this now. The way for me to do that is I start with the assumption that my soul is composed of joy. If I want to completely experience my soul, then I want to be in complete joy. Now, that's not humanly possible all the time. So what I have to do is constantly check myself to say, what is it that gives me joy? Whether that's I want to do this in the future or I want to go surfing, that's my soul aligning me, continuously aligning me. And then I have to take action towards that. If I take action towards that, I'm constantly in the ever unfolding now, in connection, in alignment with my soul, which means that I create a past which creates the future that I want. Not the future that I think I want. Because people walk around, this is why The Secret doesn't work. The Secret says what you focus on is what you create, and that's only partially true. The assumption behind that is that the universe is arbitrary. What we mean by that is that the assumption is that you are arbitrary and you're not. You have a specific soul desire that wants to create a universe. And that is immovable. Everything else is movable. That is not. So our job is to align ourselves with that. Now, because we don't remember, we don't have the cheat sheet in front of us, we only have one thing, which is, what is it that gives me happiness? Now, you're finding your happiness when you start to say, that is stupid, that's silly, people are going to, target me, and that's how you know.
It's like the North Node. This is where the soul desire resides, but also your greatest fears. Yeah.
And that's the whole game. You came down here to face those fears and overcome them. When you choose to black magic, I need this power so I can control this, because if I don't, that's coming from the wrong assumption, the assumption of fear. You come from the assumption of joy, it's going to be, I don't care what people think. I don't care if I die doing it. If I die doing what makes me the happiest, then great. That's totally different.
Right.
And interestingly enough, when you're willing to die for what it is that gives you the greatest joy, you don't die. You overcome. Everything falls in front of you. This is why our ancestors said that people who went to Valhalla died in battle. Those who went to the underworld died of illness or old age. What that means is, and I've come to find out that there's truth to this, that when you are not in alignment with what gives you joy, which is your immensity, your infinity, the reality it wants to create, when you are not in alignment with that, then you are in rageful conflict with yourself, which creates either external chaos or misery or disease.
Yeah. And that's the war of the Aesir and the Manu.
Brilliantly, the way you set that up brilliantly, because that's exactly it, the war between the Aesir and the Manu. Mm-hmm. And so that's what our ancestors meant. Whether they knew it or not, they were saying, if you want to live without disease, then you have to be without conflict in your soul desire. Mm-hmm. And to be willing to die doing that. If you are in conflict, which means you go out of alignment with what you want, you're going to create that conflict, that war, which will either create some kind of a chaos or death or disease or old age, which is what? Somebody could be 80 years old and be in really great shape, or somebody can be 80 years old and walking around. So it's not that, what it looks like on the surface. You get what I'm saying.
It's all about your state of mind.
Yeah.
Everything in the universe is a mental projection. And I am absolutely 100% convinced that the cosmic laws are part of the sacred code. Part of the sacred code of all sentient beings that have ever fucking existed. And if you're not in alignment with that, it's like Anubis. You're not going to pass beyond the gates. He's weighing the hearts of mankind with the feather of Ma'at, which represents cosmic law. And if your thought and emotion is not in alignment with that soul spark, with that soul desire, you're fucked. You're completely fucked, and you're going to come back again, and you're going to get that mind wipe coming back in, and you're not going to remember, and you're going to get layered the fuck over with the distortions and all this kind of stuff that just devours life.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in context to the magic of weird, this is everything to do with the spindle, like we're touching upon. The energy force itself, the positive and negative charge. Now, go a little bit deeper in context to the Norns and share with me a little bit more of what the Well of Urd actually is.
Wow. I got to be honest with you. That's something I'm still trying to get a handle on, which may be part of the problem. You know, because we're talking about, again, coming into manifestation and forgetting. But the Well of Urd is true memory. It's not a memory of, here's a list of things that happened. It's the memory of essence. So let's talk about in Indo-European languages, which includes English and Vedic and Spanish and Greek and Latin. At some point, if you go far enough back in time, there will be two words for truth. One is truth, which means essence. It doesn't mean the factual truth of this happened on this day. Okay, I went down Main Street and I turned left. That's the truth. That's not the truth. That's a bunch of facts. The truth used to mean, came from the same root to be, which meant that your being, your essence, was truth. And we've lost that word in English, and in most Indo-European languages, we've lost that word. We used to have it, the last incarnation of that word, you know, Shakespearean language, they'd say forsooth, which meant for truth. One of the ways to worship the divine in the Sikh tradition is to chant the word Sat, which is the same word, essence of being. And one of the words is Satnam, which is the name of truth, meaning I am essence. And then we have Troth, which is your commitment. So that's something altogether different. And we are associating that with truth. But to get back to your question about the Well of Urd, I think that the Well of Urd is the true essence of being, which in that context represents true memory, which is not a memory of facts or a memory of dates or chronological happenings, which is what people want to remember. I want to remember my past life. That gives you nothing. What does give you the ability to, again, create new timelines is to remember your essence, which is, as you're talking about, you said it's more than a feeling, it's more than a knowledge, it's more than a fact. It's something you can't put into words, but when you're there and you experience it, you know what it is. I think that's what the Well of Urd is. And that's why, you know, the gods go back to it. That's why the Norns sit there. They sit there, and maybe that's why they weep. Because if we were coming from that well, they wouldn't have to weave anything. We go out of alignment, that's something they have to weave into existence, and they mourn over that. That's beautiful. So
the Well of Urd is the wellspring of the weeping of the Norns, trying to remind us, trying to get us to remember our true essence, which is eternal.
Yeah.
There's infinity, but then there's also eternity. Yeah. And eternity is ever present. It is right now.
Right.
From moment to moment to moment to moment. See, everything out there, again, is a reflection of what is within.
Right. It's all.
And humanity is not going to fucking evolve, as far as I'm concerned, until we remember that the heavens above are within us. All is within. We are connected to the all. We are connected to that well. That well is there within us, right? Yeah. But what the fuck are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? And you can see how people squander their essence. They squander their destiny. They give their power away. Everybody's got this list of fucking excuses of why they can't do what they really want to fucking do and what they feel. And then you're given over to the constructs of domination and control, which I think is an unconscious mental projection of the Jotun, dark magic, of that dark sorcery that is giving power to those that are in lust for that gold archetype, man. And it's not the real gold. It's fool's gold, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking fool's gold. And we're all being tricked, thinking that, you know, if I just get this or if I just accumulate more and it's just take, that we're somehow going to be fulfilled. And it just all falls through the fucking floor.
Yep.
Every fucking time. And that's Jornmonger. That's the Ouroboros. And it's the devourment and taking of life instead of the expansion of consciousness and tapping into the creative abilities that we have.
And when you can get to the place where your only possession is your state of essence, that is the ultimate goal. Your only possession. You know, you were talking about people taking, and name one hoarder that's happy. I can't think of one.
Have you ever seen that fucking show, Hoarders?
I have. You can barely walk through the house because everything is piled to the ceiling, and that's just exactly what you're talking about, which is the same idea.
Right.
And that's why, and, you know, I haven't achieved it yet to my knowledge, but to get to that place where my only possession is my essence, that wellspring of my being, which is again what Odin is. That's Odin.
Right. Loki was talking about the blood of the Norns and how the blood of the Norns is being siphoned as well. It's not just the tears. It's not just the weeping. Their essence is literally being siphoned as well. And this is how the well of Ord becomes poisoned.
Yeah.
This is how our true magic, the well of Ord being siphoned, the magic of weird is, as far as I'm concerned, very, very real. The tradition of our ancestors going back as far back as it does, man. I mean, it is absolutely unbelievably powerful for me. And what it is showing me in context to all of the other things I've been in study with. Okay, what's the viable proper knowledge? What do we actually need to be focused on that's going to give us the outcome and the result that we're actually intending from our soul? From our soul, not all up in your head with the fucking programs and the mind control and all this other fucked up shit. And you can see it happening, man. All you got to do is look out.
Yeah.
All you got to do is look out. Once you know it, all you got to do is look out, and you can see what the fuck I'm talking about. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Now, one thing I want to get into next is the Voluspa. And the Voluspa, as you know, is the prophecy of the Seeress.
Yes.
And I want to get into a little bit of what Odin's connection was with the Seeress, why he came to her to get insights from her specifically here in Midgard.
This brings up the understanding between Seith and Galdr, which is shamanism, wizardry. And she is the one who says what she saw. She says she saw this and she saw that and she saw the different worlds, and she tells you how many worlds there have been and all that stuff. And so in order for Odin to interpret what needs to happen, what ritual to perform, which is, again, we're talking about true magic, creating, he has to hear from the seeress what she's seen. And Odin can't know what his magic is until he hears from her what she sees. But her vision can't create magic by itself. She doesn't know what to do with that. She needs to give it to him so that he can hear that and interpret it and then knows what to do. So he's sitting at her saying, tell me what you see. Just shared about this on the channel. I shared about it a couple times, but the history of the world would be completely different if one thing had changed, which we have written down according to history. when the Romans were conquering Europe and they were bringing in this dualist monotheism, bringing with them all this stuff you're talking about, of control and manipulation and all that with the empirical mindset. They came to the borders of the Germanic tribes, and the Germanic tribes had all come together and made this huge army against them. And they're across from each other, this field. And the staff carrier woman said, do not attack yet. If you attack, you will lose, and there's this hint of, unimagined destruction will come from it. He didn't listen to her. The Germans attacked first, and the rest is history. We now have the world that we have. If we didn't, we would be a completely different society. So this means that the wizard has to have the vision that the shamans bring. It gives itself over to the universe, and it sees or it channels, but it doesn't understand all the time. And so without the understanding, we don't know what to do with it. I have students that come to me all the time. I had this vision, I had this dream, and to me it's really clear. And I say, oh, that means this means that means that. And they know exactly what to do. They're giving me all kinds of information from the other side. I get that from you too. You
Right.
share your visions, and I'm like, oh, and I get to put it all together, and then that gives me something that I can use to then teach more, to help people find the way, to know which way to go. So it's sort of like the wizard creates the map, but he can't do that until somebody is coming back with, okay, here's the picture from this side of the valley and that side of the valley, and then he puts it together and creates a map. That's what Odin is doing there. Odin, as the ultimate expression of the masculine, can do nothing without the power of the feminine. And power of the feminine cannot create without the ability of the masculine to put it into a direction. So that's one of the things I see from it.
I think when, after the first war took place, they did end up making peace. Odin taught Freya the runes, and Freya taught Odin Seith.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when that balance and harmony comes together.
Yeah.
That's when the true magic can come into alignment, and it's not, pulled into the realms of fucking chaos like it was with fucking Hyrule.
Yeah.
Like it still is.
Let's go back to Hyrule. Ragnarok is going to bring a really fucking kick-ass next level. Without it, there won't be that next level. The gods have to die, but they transform into new realms. But at the same time, the evil gets recreated again. You can't get rid of that. That unconscious, there's more destruction. It has to destroy to be recreated all the time.
Yeah, it's a part of everything. And these are the cycles of Ragnarok, akin to alchemy, going through the transmutation and the alchemical process, going through that calcination and putrefaction stage. When you go into Nigredo, the Shadow Realm, all that kind of stuff, that is when Ragnarok starts within the individual.
So what you're bringing to this discussion, which I want to acknowledge, is that this is not that it's a risk. Life is a risk. And that coming into human form is a risk, because there is a very real risk that we will fuck it up. Because it's true that, we have a responsibility. This is why it's so important to stay in the now and focus on doing the fearless act of following the wellspring of your soul, because that is what the rest of the universe, including the Norns, including the Jotuns, including the gods and Vanir, are focusing on, hoping that we will help create that faster path to evolution, which is, again, like, I gave the example of, had that Germanic warrior listened to his Seeress, he would have changed the whole future. The Hopi have a different, same kind of understanding, which is that, the four races split off and learned the four different elements, and their job was at the end, which is now we come together and we share our knowledge, and then we evolve to the next level. And they said, when the white man shows up, if he comes with a cross without a circle, he's forgotten who he is, and it's going to create all kinds of horrific chaos.
So real quick, on a side note, the natives knew this.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they knew.
And see this right here, the knowledge of what you're tapping into all goes back to the wisdom council. The wisdom councils that did exist here.
Yeah.
It was every race and tribe, a round table, man. This is like fucking Arthur's fucking round table. I mean, the real round table, the planetary Templar, the Holy Grail. And the Holy Grail, this is Arthur's Excalibur. This is the Monium. This is the Egyptian Ankh. This is the key to the fucking universe, okay? And the key to creation and how to wield it correctly. Everyone has a unique way of working with it, right? And it is to respect all tribes, all races, all ways of navigating what we are here to navigate and unfold what we are all here to unfold. Now, right now, what I see happening is the catching up the soul cycles where the ancestors are being healed. We're coming into alignment, being reminded more and more and more. And there's those of us here, the wisdom councils, that in context to that is literally starting to be created again, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I can't speak for anybody else, but I absolutely know for a fact that I am a part of this. This is something that I have to talk about, and then it's out there. I don't get to decide for anybody else. Ragnarok and then the Ragnaroker. We're at a very, very important pinnacle point in the timeline and history that's going to unfold for the future for mankind.
Yeah.
It's not about us wanting to be in the position of domination or anything, because take it back to the ancient shamans. Take it back to even the druids, what me and Thomas Sheridan touched upon in the most recent segments.
That was a great segment, by the way.
Awesome. You got a chance to check it out?
Yeah.
Awesome. And he talked about how the Viki and Volva and the druids were in the position as the stewards, the ones that knew how things actually fucking worked. And see, this is what all of the dark ones want to fucking hoard. They're like those fucking hoarders, man. They just want to keep it. And see, they're completely, absolutely fucked now because it's been over 28,000 fucking years of accumulation and hoarding, and they are completely fucking fucked right now. And I'm going to address it. I'm going to say it in this segment. You motherfuckers are fucked. And they're being given a chance, okay? But a lot of the changes that could have happened in the past, we're going to get that opportunity again. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to touch upon the prophecy of the Seeress and Odin's connection to her, and the coming together of masculine and feminine in the way that it was truly intended to fucking be. Yeah. And see, I started to talk about this, Michael, over 2.5 fucking years ago now. This was the very first fucking thing that I started talking about. Very first fucking thing. And it kicked out that fucking Ragnarok all across the board in network with people and all this stuff just, coming to the fucking surface. This is literally what's happened the last 2.5 fucking years after I came back, being gone for over 2 years, going through more initiations and coming into alignment more with that essence. And then, okay, now it's fucking time. And I didn't see it coming. But for 2.5 years, listen, for 2.5 years, I was silent. I was silent, and I set forth my intention within the circle for 2.5 fucking years. Not just one day. I'm going to do a ritual one day and then something's going to fucking happen. No. It takes focus. It takes being, in alignment and connection to truth. Trusting yourself like you're talking about, man. Trusting yourself. And knowing that thing that is there, there within you, that true essence is bringing you into alignment. Now, I can only speak for myself, but the power of the Seeress, the power of her visions is something that I think a lot of women, and I want you to take this and go with it, man. A lot of women are in fear of that.
Oh, yeah.
They're in fear of their position and what their actual point is with all this, man. Because the feminine has been the main target.
Yep.
Why has it been the main target? Because they are the essence of the primordial womb of the all. This is of Niflheim. This is Niflheim, right? Fire, water, where that all life comes from Niflheim, right?
Yeah. Yep.
From the Great North. And touch upon that in context to the Seeress and the position of women that are starting to awaken and start to come into alignment with what's unfolding.
Yeah, let's do that. And I also want to underscore what you were saying about, discipline. You were showing up every day for an extended period of time with the same intention. The Norns, which is about shifting that spindle to recreate timelines and align that timeline, that is done through discipline. That's not something that happens instantly unless you have completely aligned yourself, and most of us haven't. And so in that ever unfolding present moment, we have to have the discipline to continue to create in that moment through our intention. And that's what you're talking about. That's why, I spend so much time giving people exercises to do. I'm hammering away at it. It's great. You come onto my channel and we talk, but you've got to do the work. The work is every single day realigning yourself in the present moment until it becomes second nature. Then you can turn your eyes on something and manifest. Turn your eyes and manifest. So I wanted to underscore that before I talk about the feminine. The feminine, there's a reason why our ancestors worshipped the sun as a feminine being. There's no life without it, but it's also, incredibly powerful. You think about the light that comes here from the sun that feeds the plants, which feeds the animals, which feeds us, and all that kind of stuff. The vitamin D3, we can't function without that. It starts with an incredibly, unbelievably powerful nuclear fusion explosion at the center of that massive ball of gas. And the word sunna is emptiness, but it's not the emptiness of nothing. It's the emptiness of pure potential, which is the most powerful thing in the universe. The power of the feminine is like a nuclear bomb. That's how powerful it is. When I first started training in the spirit fighting, I started learning about the power of the feminine in ways I'd never even heard before. They'd walk in and they'd start talking about the power of the feminine, and I didn't know what they were talking about. And then they'd say, here's what it feels like. And then they just barely touch you, and a bomb goes off inside it. And as I was learning that, and I was learning the postures and the hand seals and those kinds of things, I felt this huge explosion of energy within me that first gave me this feeling of ultimate bliss, and then there was this fear that hit me like, holy crap. And then there was a being next to me on my left side, which is the feminine side. And this being brought pictures into my mind of a nuclear bomb going off and said, if you misuse this power, we'll take it away from you. And I saw these nuclear bombs, meaning that this is the kind of power that you're being given access to, which is nothing more than the power of the feminine. The woman who started this sect, which was the first sect of Taoism, was a woman. That same sect, then after all the other Taoist sects then sprouted up out of it, they became masculine oriented. And then they turned and started calling that sect a sect of sorcery. But whenever they had a problem, guess who they went to? They went to that bad sorcery sect. And this is, in our society, we go far enough back in time, we have the villain in fairy tales. It's women.
Right. You're touching upon some things that you mentioned in another segment that we did, talking about when the Romans came to the borders of the Germanic tribes and they didn't listen to the Seeress. And this is when men lost their fucking power.
Yep. And they did it out of insecurity. Fear. Because they're looking across
out of fear
the field at these Romans who are now 100% masculine-oriented, empirical people saying, wow, well, if they're doing it, well, I'm just as manly as you. Shut up, woman. And guess what happened? They lost. Look at it both ways, because if we look at the idea of the wicked witch of the north is the villain, our ancestors understood that the feminine had all the power. Now, here's something I wanted to say earlier. Now I've got an even better platform to say it. The Germanic tribes specifically had an ancestral responsibility. And when they shirked their responsibility, it descended the world into the chaos we have now. And that is because in my studies, I haven't found any other culture that does this. I'm open to if somebody reveals it to me. The word vulva means staff carrier, the phallic symbol, you know. In the Germanic tribes, the women carried the staff, which means the men trusted the feminine to such a degree that they literally gave them their staff to hold on to it.
Right.
They had all of the power. Once they took their staff out of the women's hands, the world started to descend into the chaos that we have now, which means that the Germanic tribes had an ancestral responsibility to bring something to the table, which they didn't do. And again, if we go back to the Hopis said that each of the tribes were to go off into 4 directions and learn the 4 elements, which became the 4 races, and we're going to come back together. And when the white man comes back, who's mastered fire, if he's got the circle, which is the feminine, surrounding the cross, it remembers who he is. It'll bring the world into a new space of awareness and evolution. If he comes without the circle, it means he's forgotten himself, which means he forgot the feminine. Stay the fuck away, because what he's going to bring is pestilence and disease and destruction. What I have to say to, you know, any racialists who really want to hold on to their idea, and whenever I talk about this, you get people who get really defensive and say, you know, I'm not a, and they, you know, they think they're defending their own race, and they're not. Because if you defend your own race, you're going to defend the reality that we dropped the ball, fucked up big time. And the answer is not to dig in deeper into your denial and to justify your fucking mistake by being a racist asshole. The understanding is, if you're a man, you admit your mistakes without any fear and without any guilt. We now have this opportunity to bring this back. The masculine and the feminine have to be in unison together, or they can't create. What has happened over the past 2,000 years because of the male domination is that women have forgotten what their power is, which is not to be men. So
right.
The idea of trying to get your equality back by trying to act like a man is why would you do that? You have the power of indirect power, because what happens during the act of love? The man brings his directness. What is it that gives him that directness? When she indirectly surrounds him. She takes his staff. He becomes the staff carrier. That's what gives him the ability to be who he is, which then turns her.
Right, and it puts her back in the position as the true goddess.
She allows him to do that. She says, I will now allow you to worship me, which turns him on, and the act of that makes him the king. It's because of her power that he becomes that. What I see more often than not when it comes to women is they are so defeated and they have so much lack of understanding and self-respect that they complain about how men do this to me and men have done that to me. And that means you've been infected. You've been infected with the hypnotic suggestion that you are not the one who has the power to hold the staff. And when women can stop complaining and stop being the victim and own their power, they won't have to stand face to face to men and stare them down and talk them down, because that's not how it's done. They will be able to, through their positive intention, men will arise to who they're supposed to be. We need the feminine for the man to rise to his noble stature and confidence and all of the things that women say that they want from us. So that can start with this discussion of, if we do our part as men, we are going to say to them, I want you, the feminine. to be powerful enough to hold my staff. I will give my staff to you if you can rise to your power. And then they can do their part. They can do their part and reflect back to us in ways that we can hear. That's probably the biggest issue from my perspective.
They are the essence of the primordial womb. Now, in context to Hyrule, looking at it from another perception, she is the manifestation of the abyss, where all the dark gods hail from, and all this inverted fucking shit. And I see that how women are terrified of their destiny, of their true destiny, Why is it that they are in so much fear?
Excellent point. I'm so glad you brought that up. As I've said before, if I were to strike somebody, I would strike them with the feminine. You can put in front of me the biggest, strongest, toughest guy in the world, who if you take a bat to his head and crack a bat over his head, he keeps coming at you. The more masculine he is, if you just tap him with the feminine, I'm not kidding. I've done this. It's been done to me. You tap them with the feminine, they crumble. And they are so afraid of that. What a true man does is a true man allows the woman to face her nuclear power. Remember I said earlier that the feminine was shown to me as being like a nuclear bomb. Without the masculine, the nuclear bomb goes off and destroys everything. Women are afraid of that power, and rightly so. The spirit fighting that I teach, it's more difficult for men to comprehend the idea of the feminine, but once they catch on, emotionally and psychologically, it's still very frightening, but they can do it. Women, on the other hand, you just start barely showing them the true power of the feminine, and they run because they cannot handle how much power that is. They haven't been given the rigidity of the masculine, which gives them the support to allow them to fully embrace that nuclear power that they have, because we haven't done our job.
Exactly.
Men can look into the darkness and come out unscathed. Women can't. They look into the darkness, it consumes them.
And this is the position of the masculine. It's not the woman, it's us.
Right.
It's men that don't know who the fuck they are. See, a real man's gonna know what we're fucking talking about.
Yep.
Not some fucking beta bitch fucking slave that's trying to play into the fucking illusion. That doesn't fucking work. And that's why there's so much fucking domestic fucking bullshit going on all across the fucking board.
Right.
That's why people that are married are fucking miserable. They don't know who the fuck they are.
Men don't know how to respond to the Me Too movement. They don't know how should I respond to that. A true man knows exactly how to respond to that.
Right. And this is what I think men fear the most, because they don't fucking trust themselves.
Yep.
Which puts the feminine force into fucking chaos.
Exactly. And that chaos is destructive. Always.
That chaos is fucking Hyrule.
Yes. It's the wicked witch, which means that's the feminine that the masculine has not been there for.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned the Wicked Witch of the North. See, the Wizard of Oz, it's very fucking interesting. This is the path of the fool. Getting into the tarot, I practice tarot, I study tarot. Tarot is fucking magic. It is absolutely fucking powerful. And anybody out there listening to this, get into it, because this gets into the archetypes of human consciousness and shows us the path to become the master of ourselves with both men and women. With the positive and negative charge of the energy force, the ultimate expression of that is the hermit. The hermit, he is the master wizard. He is the master sage. He's the master magician. He's pretty much the goddamn fucking master of whatever the fuck he touches. It doesn't matter. It's not just in context to esoteric sciences and magic and all this kind of stuff. He is in alignment with who he is. And it's interesting because the hermit is holding the staff, but he's alone. He's alone on top of the fucking mountain. He is looking out. He is looking out, okay, who do I give this to? And that is the mystery unfolding itself, because I've never actually fucking said this. It doesn't stop at the hermit. That's a point of navigation on the path. And it's not just masculine, it's both. It's the positive and negative charge. It's the feminine and the masculine together as one with the hermit. So there's a lot of different ways to look at that power, that nuclear fucking fusion, that spirit bomb of the divine feminine force is what the dark ones fear the most, is what Hyrule fears the most, is what the Yotan fear.
And Hyrule is that.
Right.
This is again like looking at Kali. Or Hela's a better example.
Right.
Hela has two sides. Half of her is beautiful woman and the other half is rotting corpse. Which means that if you are attached to your unconsciousness, your desire, your self-hatred, if you're attached to that, then that's what you're going to see reflected back to you as that corpse, which is what you're, what you're hoarding, what you think is going to keep you safe, is actually rotting like a corpse. If you have cleaned that out and you have acknowledged, as you said, the wellspring, and you are in full alignment with that, then you are going to be reflected back to her, and she is going to come as this beautiful young maiden. So Hyrule could be that as well. The funeral ship of Galdr being pushed out into the ocean that the gods can't push. She's the only one that has the power to do it.
Right.
So she represents going into the limited world, which has all of that negativity that we've ascribed to it, all of the decay and the death. But that is based upon how we are aligned. She could have been the most beautiful goddess in the world who lovingly pushes Galdr into the ocean of manifestation. Depends on how we look at it, because the snake,
right,
the wolf, the smoke, you put all those things together. It depends on how we react.
I would say the manifestation of Hyrule happens when we as men don't fucking know who we are. And that's reflected all across the board. Take it back to what you said about the war with the Romans and the Germanic tribes and all that kind of shit. And see, I'm addressing this because this is what we're dealing with in context to the energy of the goddamn fucking reality field, man. And I can literally feel this because of my disposition. I can feel that. I can feel that fear. I can feel that anxiety. And it manifests itself in a bunch of different ways. And I am continually having to draw the circle and be in alignment in the midst of this, because it's a lot of bleed through that wants to come in. And that's why doing ritual and practice and healing work is so fucking important. I see a lot of people want to skip that. They don't want to go into the pain of the fucking abyss and face that fucking shit. And see, if you resist anything, it's going to throw you into a fucking feedback loop. They turn into fucking psychos. Listen, man, that's the wicked motherfucking witch that you got to be aware of, man. All men out there listening, you got to be aware of that, because that woman is not interested in giving you her power at all. That thought process is not even going on with her. Okay.
Well, let me give you
again. There's a lot of different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
Unconsciously, they want that.
On the wicked witch, what the feminine wants to do more than anything else is to empower the male. They want to see in the male Shiva, the ultimate man that they can respect and adore, and then they are going to reflect back to that masculine what it is capable of. The feminine that is out of alignment cannot stand in front of Shiva. That's when women get really fucking destroy your life and cut your dick off. And once they get to a certain point, just like everything else, there's no coming back. To defeat the wicked witch is for the men to become true men, to be the man that she wants to love. Rise to the occasion. Let me give you another example from the Vedic tradition. You're asking about the Voluspa. It's the same idea. In the Germanic tradition, tribes gave the women their staff. We see the staff carrier woman as all-powerful. In the Vedic tradition, they have a slightly different take, where Shiva and Parvati, his wife, are talking. And it is Shiva talking to Parvati, and he's telling her who she is.
Yeah.
She asks, well, how did the universe come into existence? Well, how did this? And he says, you, my goddess, you are the mother. You created this. You did this. You did that. And it's said that she's sitting at his feet, you know, giving him the status. So she's treating him like the guru, but he is worshiping her as the mother of the universe, and he is informing her of who she is. So this is what the feminine is looking for also, being that loving force that surrounds the male and empowers it. Because they're the feminine, now what men do is men just become flaccid, like the guy. They sit in their underwear and they play video games. Women don't become flaccid, they become more of who they are. So instead of being that loving force that surrounds the male and empowers it, they become a boa constrictor and they just suck the fucking life out of it. They nag you because there's nothing there for them to respond to.
Right, and another very important thing I want to touch upon is the fucking fact that men, they gotta carve out their fucking path. They gotta stop chasing fucking women and thinking that being with a woman is gonna give them any sorts of status without actually having a goddamn fucking vision for their fucking life.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and this is why people get into relationships for all the fucking wrong reasons, and they don't know why it's not working the fuck out. You're fucking 45 years old, still playing fucking video games into Skyrim and all this kind of stuff, taken from the Nordic tradition. What was the power of the character in Skyrim? The Galdr, the ancient Nord arts, when he spoke forth, it destroyed the darkness. And I don't play fucking Skyrim. I'm not a gamer. Just anybody out there, I'm not into that shit. You haven't even started playing the real motherfucking game.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on? I stopped playing video games when I was like 13, man. So there's a switch in consciousness that's taking place, an opportunity, and more people are starting to wake up and realize this kind of stuff. In context to Ragnarok, fuck, man, I went into this not too long ago in a way where it's okay, I'm stumbling over my fucking words. I went into this recently and I said, I'm going to choose to go there, making fucking ritual out of it. That's where a lot of these questions that I've asked you tonight are coming from in context of the Aesir and the Vanir and the First War. The mystery of all mysteries is man and woman. It is the mystery of all mysteries. And we have an opportunity now to crack these codes and actually pull things into alignment. We don't forget where we've come from. Never fucking forget where you come from, right? We can't forget all the mistakes and all the fucking hardships and all the things, because without that and without teaching, you know, protocol to the future generations, it's just going to keep on repeating itself, man.
Yep.
You know, the expansion of consciousness in context to the Mjolnir. I'm not negating the darkness. I'm not talking about it or not even looking into that sort of fucking material, because it's a part of everything. It's a part of everything. We're both the darkness and the light. And in context to the dark ones now being given a chance, healing is starting to pour forth in network on all ends of the fucking spectrum. Even people that are into dark magic and all this kind of stuff, they are starting to recognize this now. And Helion is starting to happen. And I think that both men and women, if they do remember what we are actually capable of together, not even the gods and goddesses have seen this. Yeah. They haven't seen this potential. They have it in a sense. Okay? But again, this is everything in the universe is a mental projection.
Yeah.
It's all there. It's all there within us. Just, okay, how do we navigate? How do we actually tap into this and do it? So going through that process of Ragnarok within, fuck, man, that's been the last 20 goddamn fucking years of my life. And it's real. All of these things that we're talking about. But people got to stop looking at it from a two-dimensional linear perception.
Right.
That's the main issue, because they're polarized within themselves. And they're on one side of the spectrum or the other, or not even close to being in alignment with the spectrums to even see what the potential is. But that's what I see happening. And people actually making ritual out of the process that they're going through and embracing their pain, because we're not going to win the game. You're not going to win the game, all you fucking gamers, See, a lot of that is the realms that they go into to fucking escape and
Right.
play out their fucking fantasy without actually having the fucking balls to carve out something fucking real here. Something real here, like you are doing, like I am doing, like other people in the network are fucking doing. We're fucking doing it.
Yeah.
We're being the cause point, you know, encouraging that with other men, also the women. It's like, wake the fuck up and realize how much is there within you and learn how to channel it and work with it. If this happens, we are going to come onto a timeline. We're talking about timelines and magic and creation. We are going to come onto a timeline unlike any other timeline, where we don't negate our darkness. We actually say, you know what? I know my potential for fucking evil. I've gone into it. I've explored it. I've even played it the fuck out within myself, going through that Ragnarok process. Okay? And I feel that personally, where I'm at in context to my path work and what's unfolding, the inner Ragnaroker is starting to come forth. And this is the resurrection of everything. Are we going to fuck up like we did eons ago and repeat the same fucking shit? Or are we going to remember how the Aesir and the Vanir made peace? They made peace. And it is one of the absolute strongest alliances in the fucking known universe.
Yeah.
On a conscious level.
The center of the crosshair. You got the Aesir on one side, the Vanir on the other, and in the middle is the human being.
Right.
And that was part of their, you know, the peace was that they gave each other hostages, intermingle.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how Freya and Odin came to.
Yeah.
Because at first they were like ready to fucking kill each other.
Yep.
Tear each other fucking apart. And that's a reflection of being polarized.
Right.
If people are not on the same vibrational correspondence, it's just going to fucking explode. You know, it's just go like this. And both of them were on either side of the fucking battle, you know, sending envoys afterwards here and there to see what maybe the outcome was going to be. It's just the fucking endless fucking slaughter. The endless slaughter. And Njord started to fucking realize it too. He's like, you know what? I think this is not going to fucking work anymore. And then they came to terms. And then there's that whole story about how the infection, I'll say, was still happening with the Vanir, and they cut off Mimir's fucking head. But see, Odin had the ability, he had the magic to be able to, you know, that Seith that he learned from Freya. He wouldn't have been able to do it for Mimir's head. He's like, you know what? Fuck war. Everything's in harmony here. And you motherfuckers need to wake up. That's what Odin, I think, is saying right now. Yeah,
I completely agree with that one. Absolutely.
I have one more question, and it's very interesting in context to the Jotun. Why do they want to destroy Midgard? Why do they want to destroy all the worlds?
So there are multiple kinds of Jotun, giants that are destructive. There are Thyrses, which we would consider to be like demons, trolls. The Jotuns represent, in the eastern direction, the force of expansion. The eastern direction, especially in the rune wheel, which is, you know, the reading that I gave you was basically a rune wheel. Whatever rune is in that eastern direction, when you take a reading like that, it tells you how you are empowering your own identity. So that's part of expansion. You are becoming something and you're going to expand your identity onto the world. You have to have it, call it ego, otherwise we can't function here. But if we become so focused on our own identity, we become myopic, then we become a cyclops, which is, you know, in the Greek tradition, the giants all have just one eye in their forehead. It's not their third eye. It means that they are just totally myopic and narcissistic, and they have no awareness of how they affect anybody. They just do whatever the hell they want. They bite people's heads off. This is what, you know, serial killers are. They're Jotuns in that sense that they have no awareness of anything other than themselves, and they have no ability to identify with other people. So the giants represent that force of ego, of self, expanding beyond bounds. they're just so wrapped up in themselves that they destroy everything they come in contact with. And so people can be like that as well. This is why the Vanir are so connected to the idea of peace. Freja is all about peace. Frey is all about peace. The planet Venus, where the term Vanir came from. Wayne, Wenus, Wanes, Vanir. It's this idea of peace. We think of Venus goddesses as being goddesses of fertility and love and sex, friendship and cooperation. They want to connect. Mars wants to destroy. The warrior wants to destroy and dominate. And Venus says, be friends. Let's hang out. I want to get to know you. Let's talk. Let's have fun. Let's have a glass of wine. Let's have a beer. Let's sit down. Let's relax. Put on some nice music. So that is where Thor comes in, because Thor is boundaries. And you asked earlier, why did Thor want to destroy Hyrrokin and the gods said no? Is because it's a destruction of the boundaries of the soul. Left to itself wants to stay in Asgard. It's just a pure celestial being of timeless infinity. And to be thrust into the degradation of time and decay and death, Thor wants to fight that. And so I would say maybe the gods understood. Maybe the gods had an understanding that, no, the soul has to go and be incarnated and experience all that, otherwise we won't evolve. But Thor is half giant and he's half god, and so he is a warrior, and it's not in his nature to just let destruction happen. He can't just let that happen.
Right, and I love in the Voluspa when it talks about when Thor went berserk during the war. It's fucking horrible what happened, but the extent of the fury that was there within him is something that I think is also very terrifying to most men, being afraid of their true strength.
Yeah.
Because there's the power with the feminine, right? And these are the two pillars. Pillar of strength, pillar of power. Strength and power, strength and power. And unless the two are in alignment, it's just going to be the cause point for absolute and total fucking devourment on both fucking sides. Where that beauty and that strength is siphoned, and we lose ourselves again and again and again and again and again. And I see this happening where people lose themselves to life because they haven't learned the secrets. They don't know the secrets of the universe. Okay? And this is our position, to be way showers, to be the stewards of this knowledge. And it's something that I think you could testify to the fucking fact that you have been tested beyond even your fucking limits, where you were ripped and torn to fucking sunder, and just everything that was happening at the time, even maybe you didn't understand it, but it all made sense after truth revealed to individuals like you and like myself what we've actually been through to be in the position that we are. I like what you said about enlightenment. There's no arrival point with it. We are going to continue to evolve. At the same time, we can be like that token of the gods that was made man in alignment. And it's just very interesting what's happening, man. When I get into study with the mythos and then listen to you and a few other people, see, there's not that many people out there talking about these things on the level that you and I even are.
Yep. And
that's the unique thing about Black Earth Productions, and it's going to continue to be like that because these motherfuckers don't know when I'm going to fucking strike. Okay? That's the Ulfanar. We're like motherfucking ninjas, right? We know what the fuck is going on, but we are not playing that fucking game. We're playing a game unlike any other game in fucking history right now. And more people are going to be given this opportunity. It's going to take off in a way that I can't even fully see.
Yeah, I can feel that, and I'm having to listen and deal with my fear about that. I'm starting to see this. If I let this thing do what it's supposed to do, it can
yeah,
and I got to get the hell out of the way.
Right, and this is why I want to be in the position, even though I'm going through my shit too, to encourage and empower everyone in the network. Because we as men fucking need that. Imagine a generation of men that stop fucking competing with one another over petty fucking shit.
Yep.
And we actually started to encourage that strength that's there within us. Say, you know what, you can do this. You can heal. You can overcome fucking anything. You can learn to remember who you are and what you have to work with. And learn to remember who you are in context to that essence.
Yeah.
Not who you think you are based upon the constructs of fucking programming that are riddled within the mental and emotional fucking body, running the fucking radar, man. And see, it's this shit that's not in alignment with this. It's not in alignment with the feminine force in context to the Nordic tradition. Like you're saying, the feminine was the sun, that soul spark. That's the only fucking way that we are ever going to know how to navigate the solar spiral specifically. See, a lot of people want to get into the galactic, man. They're talking about aliens and fucking archons and the demiurge and all that kind of stuff. And all of that, it's seriously a very, very, very tiny sliver of actually what the fuck is going on. But people get sucked into that, and then they think that they're enlightened, or they think that they've arrived because they had an experience with a light being or whatever the fuck.
Well, and it's like you said, to understand that being human is the apex of all that energy. So if you want to go off and, go into the elf home, and that's fine, but the real apex of all the power is here. So it's great. All the other, okay, you're from Arcturus. Great, but you're in a human body now. This is where all the energy for you is happening. It's great you came from there. Now use that energy to expand into the human. I want to address one thing, and then I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Talking about, like you said, that I've, and I know you have too, gone through unimaginable hell to get to where we are. I want to just validate that for any of our listeners, because I know you and I are healers, and we attract people who are looking for a way out. They're in a hell and they don't know how to get out of it. They're in a lot of pain, and they see this world, and I give people a hard time for being victims and feeling like victims, but it's tough love trying to slap them out of it. I want to identify, there was a point in my life when I was so fucked up as a young adult that my ultimate fantasy was to drive down the freeway, stick my head out of the window, and hit the side of a building so that my head would crack open and the insanity would ease out. Just sitting in my own skin was so fucking uncomfortable. My brain was not my friend.
Yeah.
I couldn't stop it. I couldn't slow it down.
Yeah.
And there was so much emotional pain attached to it, so much torture. But what you focused on, and the key to that, the key to getting a handle on overcoming and letting that, what feels like insanity and very well may be insanity at that time, to turn that insanity into the wisdom of shaman, is what you said earlier, which is 2.5 years every day I'm going in the circle and I'm intending the same thing. It's in spite of the feelings, sometimes in direct contrast to the feelings, in direct contrast to the impulses that say, go out and stick a needle in your neck, or go out and pull a gun on somebody, or go out and stick your head out the window and crack your head open. Create that circle, and I'm going to own my power as the fountainhead of evolution in the universe as a human being. And each day I will go into that ever-present now that creates the past and the future, and I will continue to intend what I want to intend. And then what ends up happening is that, it's not like you magically go away and you fly on this pillow of happiness for the rest of your life. No, you still got all kinds of shit to deal with and pain. But what ends up happening is you end up with the wisdom to be able to walk into a room and change everybody's alignment. You end up being like we are. We're still as human as everybody else, but something happens where the universe channels stuff through us, and we look at it and we go, yeah, I know, it did that for me too. I'm just as fucked up as you. If they want to put us on a pedestal, the pedestal should be, if that guy can do it, so can I.
Exactly.
And if you want to be how we are, how you think we are, you got to do what we do. You've got to follow the instructions of, you want this? Here are the exercises to do it. Like you said, if you fucking do it, You don't have to change the way you feel. You can feel as fucked up and miserable. And
well, listen, man, we got to put our fucking goddamn feelings on the shelf for a second. Be a little bit more fucking rational as shamans. Because a lot of shamans, they call themselves shamans, they don't have a goddamn fucking bit of rationality at all.
Right.
And they're just fucking, you know, caught up in all of this kind of stuff. Soul retrieval is fucking dangerous.
Mm.
It is dangerous because you go into that ancient trauma. You go into that war that happened with the Aesir and the Vanir. You go into fucking Ragnarok. And if you're not fucking ready for that, I'm sometimes completely fucking just mind blown, Michael, that I am where I am today. Looking back at what's happened.
Yeah.
And everything, man, because I even knew back then when I was going through that shit.
Look at what your ritual has done. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think in terms of, if you look at the whole arc of yourself, look at what effect ritual has had in the changes of your thinking. Without it, you would have turned into whatever the fuck you were afraid of. That babbling idiot on the street, or the guy with the gun, or whatever it is. Going into ritual, feeling like I'm totally fucked up, I can't do this, I'm falling apart, but I'm going to put the effort in towards the discipline of, I'm in the ritual now, and I'm going to focus on what I want without denying who I am and what I feel. Because what you're talking about, the shamans who play with the airy-fairy bullshit, because that's what it is, they're using it like a drug to escape, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about. The discipline of ritual, the discipline of the magician, the shaman, is a disciplined path. It's a path of a warrior. And to go off and have an experience of the underworld or whatever for the sake of having experience means nothing. You're just swimming around in your narcissistic unconscious bullshit. It's like you're picking up your own feces and smearing it on your face. Doesn't mean anything. It happens in the discipline of ritual that you talked about, focusing forward and intending against all of your feelings. Your feelings are telling you something else. You're going to man up or woman up, and you're going to do it anyway. So I wanted to ask you this now.
Yeah.
I think it's, I want to share this with my followers as well, which I want you to talk to me about the council, the wisdom council that's coming back together. Tell me about that. Where have we come from? Who are we? What were we? What can we do? What do you see for this council, and how is it going to affect the evolution of?
Okay. I touched upon that a little bit. If people go on the Black Earth Productions and watch my video, The Jedi Codes of the Nordic, I get into that and see with that specific video, I'm pulling in occult knowledge that is from a lot of different schools. It's from a lot of the different things that I've looked into, but this is the conclusion that I came to, and this is why the war between the Aesir and the Vanir is so fucking interesting, because there was a betrayal that took place among the councils. There was a betrayal, a sacred code that was fucking broken, and when that code was broken, it was the cause point for allowing infection of consciousness to come in. I get into the Thothian sect, specifically in that video. This is the dark priesthood that stole the wisdom of the councils and then began to use it against mankind, which they fucking have. All this conspiracy stuff, it's not fucking theory. A lot of it can be verified. A lot of people, they get crazy about it, but they're not actually studying it, looking into it, wanting to understand how it fucking works. They're just fucking in fear, and
they're getting bullshitted into false conspiracies that divert them from the real conspiracies.
Yeah, and that's part of the agenda as well, whether it's a false flag or whether or not it's fucking real, just as long as they get that effect with the fucking masses. Promulgate a lot of fucking propaganda in media, online, and then they got their people out there fucking talking about it. And some of these people might not even fucking realize that they are a part of unfolding an agenda that's going to just take them deeper into fucking slavery. When they think they're waking up, they think they know what the fuck is going on, but they don't even know who the fuck they are. They don't even know what their destiny is.
An unwitting agent of a foreign power.
Exactly.
You don't even know you've been recruited and being used by it.
Yeah. And see, I acknowledge a lot of the conspiracy stuff. I've looked into it, and it did set me on course, but I approached it differently. It's like, you know, once you start piercing those fucking veils, people want to talk about government and the banking system and the fucking corporations and all that kind of stuff, fucking chemtrails and, you know, all the stuff that we're dealing with. That's first fucking veil. That is so unbelievably fucking petty compared to what's actually the cause point for that, that mankind is not willing to fucking address within themselves.
Yep.
Okay. And this is the knowledge of the wisdom councils coming back. Okay. Because everything that the dark ones do, they take, you know, one or two things and then manipulate the construct of the fucking universe against us. Now, you said earlier, the universe is not against us. And then I said further, the universe is waiting for us to command it. But everything we've been taught, everything that people were indoctrinated with in context to the education system, has put them in the position to be fucking slaves. And that's just a fucking fact. That is a goddamn fucking fact.
And have no idea they're being manipulated the whole time.
No, because we're born into it and we don't realize that it's not how things are supposed to fucking be. And see, the real recollection of that first started to come to me in elementary school. I remember being out in fucking recess one time. I see all the kids coming out of the fucking lunchroom, and I looked at everything. I said, "This is fucking not how things are supposed to be." And I knew it within myself. Now, did I go talk about it with anyone? No. But see, already I fucking saw it for what it was, and it never worked on me, man. It's interesting because I think it was Sigmund Freud said that the Irish are impervious to psychoanalysis and all this kind of shit. You can't fuck with our kind. You can't fuck with us. You just cannot. And it's not to say that people in context to the ancestors or even other people that have similar genetics aren't complete and total fucking idiots, okay? Because they are, you know, and we got to own it. We got to own it as men, like you're talking about. But in context to the wisdom councils, man, I am going to say something that is a very bold statement. I was there. I was there in essence. And I remember this shit. And there's that inner knowing that's always been there, which is why I was checking out books on aliens and the gods and UFOs and all this kind of shit when I was in fucking kindergarten, man. I was that weird kid, you know? And they're like, what is he looking at? And then all the other kids wanted to fucking, you know, get into this fucking shit. So I was already the fucking cause point for this without even fucking knowing it. And then I had Christianity shoved down my throat. Yeah, I'm not going to get into all that. But the wisdom councils are going to manifest again. I see you and I having this conversation as a manifestation of that. See what I'm saying, man? Yep. It's happening right now. And I feel that you are a part of it. Other people are a part of it. We're all a part of this fucking round table, man, where we're learning how to master the grail of consciousness, getting into the planetary Templar. And see, one of the videos that was recently uploaded on Black Earth Productions is the Flame Letter Codex of the Planetary Templar. The wound of the feminine runs fucking deep. Yep. And without men and women coming together at that fucking table, it's not just fucking men.
Right.
It's women as well.
Right.
That are going through that process of healing to come to that place where we're able to sit at a fucking table and not want to rip each other's fucking heads off. Limited perception.
Right.
Because we all have a piece to the equation. It's not this fucking hierarchy, man. We're all here to fucking evolve and remember and heal. And healing's number one as far as I'm concerned. When people hit me up for my services specifically, why would I give you the fucking secrets of the fucking universe when you're sitting on a goddamn couch in your fucking underwear playing video games? Are you fucking kidding me? You think that the higher force is going to prompt me to even fucking have a conversation with you? You're out of your fucking mind. You're insane. Because this knowledge is not for everybody, right. But it is there for those to whom it's meant. And so the wisdom councils, this is where we come together and we take back what was unconsciously allowed. We got to take responsibility for it. It's cause and effect. It's cause and effect. And we are never not the cause for what we experience in life. We are being held accountable. We can't just do whatever the fuck we want with our gift of free will. We need to know how to master free will. We need to know how to work with what we got to work with, getting into the mechanics of hypnosis and the higher occult sciences I teach, man, in context of the psyche, how the psyche operates and all this kind of stuff. And then what's happening on the galactic level with the galactic spiral in context to the stargates of consciousness that we are all connected to. Like what you said about the Arcturus system, an individual that's here, say they have a vision or a dream, and the Arcturus beings came to them and started teaching them, certain fucking knowledge. See, this is all consciousness. It's all a reflection and a projection of what's there within us, right? It's not happening out there. It's happening here. Right. It's happening here in Midgard.
Right.
It's happening here. Everything out there in the universe is literally a reflection of what's within us. You could take the nervous system, for instance, or the construct of the neurons of the fucking brain, and then you look out into the stars and see all these celestial bodies operating in the same fucking pattern. A nebula look just like a fucking eye. It's like, wake the fuck up, people. There's nothing out there for you. It's all there within you already. And see people want to get into fucking rocket ships, go to the fucking moon or travel the fucking stars. That's not how you fucking do it. I can travel the stars, man. I've done it. I've seen the true universal tree of life, the true universal tree, which Yggdrasil is indefinitely, mathematically fucking proven to be a part of. Mathematically proven. And numbers can't lie, man. If people want to check things out in context of what I'm talking about, go on to Black Earth Productions and watch the video Yggdrasil Spindle of the True Universal Tree. These sciences, the science of magic, the metaphysics, the laws can be known and it can be wielded. And if we wield it correctly, we can create not only for ourselves and our personal lives, but potentially inspire that with other people to create something that's never been done before. This is the opportunity that we're all being given, not just man, but the gods and goddesses as well.
Yep.
Coming back together in council like we did. Coming back together in council.
And there's a bringing together of knowledge from different traditions and different cultures that has never happened in the history of the human race.
I'm glad you just said that. That's how it was before. And this is what we're coming back to. If we catch it. If we don't fucking catch it, it's just going to be the same goddamn bullshit all over again.
So it's interesting that you say that because in the Hopi tradition, they say that same thing. And they say that there were golden tablets. And then you look at the Voluspa. The last verses of the Voluspa talk about the buried golden tablets of the races. It says that. The tablets of the races.
Wow.
The Norse fucking mythology says at the end, the hidden tablets are the buried golden tablets of the races. So, that sounds pretty literal to me.
Yeah. So in context of the wisdom councils, this is what is happening now. Yeah. It's real. There's too much confirmation all across the board. Yeah. There's too much confirmation, man, confirming what's actually taking place. And if we catch it, we are going to see. Okay. In the original universe, if you had one thought, just one, about anything, it would instantly manifest.
Yep.
Now you want to see why people aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
And they want to escape the fucking goddamn initiation.
Yeah.
You're fucking insane. Thoughts don't enter the celestial realms. You just are. But to evolve, like you're talking about, you got to drop down in consciousness. And see, we're there at the roots of the tree, but also at the heights. It's reflection and projection of both, man. We're both the light and the darkness, all the stuff that we're talking about. It's all fucking wheels within wheels and spinning, moving, and it's just fucking amazing.
You were just talking about the council coming together and that it was real, and I got hit with something huge, which is there are people listening to us now who are members of this council and don't know it. And the only way you're going to find out is if you do the work.
Exactly.
You've got, somebody comes to you, you're going to give them specific techniques and rituals and things to do, which is going to align them and change them to become whatever they're meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, we are held responsible for that. We're held responsible for our actions. We don't show up with a placard that says, oh yeah, you're seat number 24 on the council. You don't know until you do the work.
Yeah.
And I got hit with that. I've got stuff coming up that I'm going to be teaching as well, and I'm hammering away at people. Mm-hmm. If you want what I have, you got to do what I've done, which means you got to do the work. You got to do the qigong. You got to do the ritual. Which I don't care. I teach so much stuff. Pick one and do it, and you'll find out if you're one of those members of the council. If you're listening to us and you think you might be a member of the council, maybe you are, but you've got to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Because this knowledge is not going to be entrusted by the higher force,
right,
to anyone that has not been through the actual fucking process.
In that council for you. If you don't do the work, that seat will remain empty.
Yeah, the knowledge and the wisdom is going to remain veiled. Right,
and you will be responsible for that because you didn't own up to what your soul said you wanted to do.
Now, see, this path work that we're talking about, this is something I feel is going to be at the forefront in the future. People are going to start to see the value of what we're actually fucking talking about, man. And it's not like you're doing it because you want to be one of the wise council fucking members. It's not even about us.
It's not about that.
It's not even about us. And with my inner circle and with everything that's going on, truth is the master. Yeah. Truth is the master teacher.
Yeah.
Now, see, getting into life path numerology, I am a master teacher. 11 is the master teacher. I'm trying to lead people back to themselves because it's not about me. I don't want people out there to fucking emulate me. I want them to potentially come into the place of discovering who the fuck they are, realizing and unfolding what they are here to unfold. And if everybody was doing that, if children were taught these things, imagine a generation of children that knew how they actually operated, man. And this is what I teach. This is what I get into. I get into the mechanics, man. But without connection to the higher force, the mechanics aren't going to run right. You're going to have missing gears, and you might be getting a little bit of an experience, but you haven't even pierced beyond, the first or second fucking veil. People are going to have to be initiated, man, because I cannot, and I am not sanctioned to share this knowledge with people that actually haven't been through the fucking process. And even if I did share it with them, they wouldn't know what the fuck.
Right, they wouldn't know what to do with it. And could you handle the power?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm clear, and I know that the runes, if you can master the runes, you can master freaking everything.
Right. Now, when it comes to the runes, I've been working with Tiawas for about 1.5 years now. Just Tiawas. Just Tiawas, like I did the same thing every day. And see, this is the problem. People want to run out and they want to learn everything all at fucking once.
Right.
You are not ever going to even be able to retain any sort of proper knowledge without going the fucking process.
Yeah. Discipline and consistency.
Yeah.
This is what changes the ever-present now. Mm-hmm. You want to change reality, you want to be magician, you want whatever the hell it is, you got to learn how to change the ever-present now. That is only done through discipline and consistency.
Right. Yeah, and Tiawas, in connection to Tyr, the god of war, it's an energy that I know how to work with now. I know how to work with Tiawas. Allow that inner guidance to point me in the direction I need to go. And see, in the past, and I think a lot of other people deal with this too, we run out ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
This is the fool walking off the goddamn fucking cliff because he didn't listen to the dog. He didn't listen to that inner guidance. Without that, you're just fucked, man. People, if they want a proper initiation, I definitely encourage them to come over and check out my services, and it's very powerful. And like I've talked about, the way that it works for me isn't the same way it's going to work for anybody else.
The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. It's not going to be 2 + 2. It's going to be 2 times 222 million.
Yeah, and it's going to be this beautiful tapestry like the one you got behind you, man. I really like that design. That's cool. That's cool as fuck. It all comes down to a personal gnosis.
Yeah.
And without that personal gnosis, you are not going to know how to connect to eternity. This is the wisdom that is coming forth now in context to the councils. And the original purpose of coming to Earth, because humans didn't always live here. Midgard is this universe, and there are many universes. This is not the only one. The physical universe, Midgard, that is our universe. That's why when people talk about the other star systems, I'm connected to that shit as well. I have a connection to those grid works of consciousness and memory, essence there. But it's all converging here in Midgard.
Yeah.
Midgard is where the fuck it's happening. But not just with our universe, every world, every Stargate, every fucking universe converges here. And so Earth, put this in context to the war between the Aesir and the Vanir, because this was the first war. Maldek was the original home of the human race. And now it's the asteroid belt. Not only is it the asteroid belt, but interestingly enough, the moon, in context to mind, thought, and emotion, but also the rings of Saturn. And see, this is where people get that whole conspiracy theory fucking bullshit about the Saturn moon matrix. Okay? If you don't know what your Saturn and your moon are, you're not going to know how that is potentially manipulating you as an individual. It's not a two-dimensional fucking linear way of looking at it where it's happening out there. No, it's happening within you.
Right.
And the manipulation of the Saturn energy being inverted in context to mind control with the moon being thought and emotion, this is how that distortion is running our fucking systems. Okay?
If people do not, again, take the basis assumption of I am the one who is infinity, I am God. If you don't have that base assumption, then it is guaranteed you will be trapped in the Saturn moon matrix. Yep. So the Saturn moon matrix is only a prison to those who choose to be victims.
Exactly.
If you own up to who you are, then they are forces with which you can work with to master the universe, and they will serve you. There's people are trapped in the Saturn moon matrix. They are. So do you want to stay there or not?
Right.
If you don't want to stay there, what's the way out?
If people work with the planetary spheres, which for a fact that they are some of the most ancient guides that we could ever hope to fucking if you work with Saturn, Saturn will forge you into who you are meant to fucking be. If you learn how to master your thought and emotion in context of the moon, then you're going to make connection back to what once was in context to original human consciousness, the original template, like I talked about. It's a 3-core chakra system on the 9. You talk about 9 energy centers, it's all the same. And I love that picture that you put up, that being that had the 3 energy centers, and they're working with the wheels and doing all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That is the original template.
Yep.
I'm getting chills, man, talking to you about this. This is the wisdom that's coming back. You and I get to share it one-on-one, but then we're going to be able to share it with other people. And see, that's how it goes out. We create this egregore where other people are going to be given the opportunity. But it's not going to be given to them. They're going to have to fucking work for it, and they're going to have to want it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, again, if people talk about the Saturn moon matrix, if you want to get out, if you want to know how to get out, do one of the techniques that we teach. And that may lead me to my next question to you, which is somebody comes to you and they say, okay, Sethikus, I want to be initiated, or I want to work with you, or I want to study with you. What are you going to do for them? Do you create something for them? Do you have a specific curriculum?
Absolutely.
What can they expect?
Yeah. With the full pack initiation, the very first assignment that I give my initiates is that they must start to become the master of their own thought and emotion. But if they don't know how their thought and emotion operates, they don't know the mechanics of the psyche, they're not going to know how to navigate the goddamn fucking solar spiral. They just will never come into the true knowledge of how they are meant to navigate that fucking shit. Getting into the planetary spheres and the consciousness that's there. Those are stargates as well. This consciousness. It's not anything you need to invoke. It's not a disembodied spirit. It's part of our essence. There are magicians and sages and mystics and fucking wizards and seeresses and witches and fucking warlocks and fucking dark magicians, and all this shit is fucking real. It is absolutely fucking real. And on the highest level in our reality field, this is what the fuck is really going on. Our world is not like other people's world. And that's what people need to realize when they come on the Black Earth Productions, or they come onto your channel, that we are in a different realm of consciousness, and not of that fucking system of fucking domination and control, where we are consenting and giving our essence over to it because, well, you know, you're just not good enough, or you're not talented enough, or you're not fucking good looking enough, or whatever the fuck excuse people want to make to not actually do what they're here to do.
Yeah.
Right? So the planetary spheres, this is where I start. This is where I start with the initiation, and then it goes from there. Blue flame healing arts. I get into how people can go into their systems and begin to cleanse and purge these things that, you know, all these programs, and go into the wounds and heal, man. Doing energy work within the fulcrum, drawing the circle of the magician and the cosmic law of alchemy. You know, I break it down. I try to make it simple. Not only that, though, I get into the stages of alchemy that one will go through when the process actually takes them and the higher force enacts it. Because, see, I didn't have this knowledge when I went through what I did. I kind of wish I did back in the day, because then I could have maybe braced myself, you know, for what was about to fucking happen. And see, deep down inside, within the core essence, I knew what was happening. But my psyche wasn't able to fucking navigate it, man, because I was not the master of my thought and emotion. Like what you were talking about, like you were just grabbing your fucking head and ready to, you know, smash your head against something, and just so that the insanity can fucking pour out, so you could get that fucking relief, right?
Yeah.
In the Western tradition, my moon is in Scorpio in the 12th house. 12th house, man.
Wow.
Right?
That's
so. These are the things that I'm processing. These are the things that I'm, you know, wanting to dive into, going into that Platonian realm, going into the underworld and extracting the secrets of the Athanor, which is the alchemical furnace. You go into that fire where all of this fucking muck and shit and layers and veils is burned away. And then that's the quest of navigation. And people are going to have experiences. They're going to see fucking entities. They're going to see and experience things even beyond what a lot of people are even touching upon, you know, in context to the conspiracy shit, the alien factions. And see, I've had experience with all that. Knowing what I know now, though, I know what the fuck it is. I know.
Yeah. Yep.
If anybody out there is having an experience with something, you are connected to it somehow, some way. Stop pointing the fucking finger. Take some goddamn fucking responsibility for your own evolution and realize what's going on. And a lot of people want to get into the occult, man. They want to get into magic, but there's not that many people that are actually in the position to initiate people into that.
Yeah.
They just want to get online, watch a video on how to fucking cast a love spell on a fucking woman. Just get up and go talk to her, you fucking spineless, underwear wearing fucking gamer boy, little boy. Learning how to navigate the psyche. This is where I start in context to the initiation. It's unrelentingly unique to the individual. It's consciousness, energy, vibration, frequency that is manifesting here into physicality. This is where it all converges. It's that step down consciousness, man.
Yeah.
Right? But see, what the distortion in context to Kabbalah, and I'm gonna fucking really drive this, Kabbalah is fucking distorted grid works. Okay, they got missing gears and it's fucking inverted, and it does suck people into the fucking abyss. Polarized on either fucking end, and they don't realize it. You can be shot right into that fucking shit, man.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at myself, and then I see that happen, and what I saw terrified me, man. It was like, it's essentially the tree of death in context to Kabbalah, with the guise that it is the tree of life. That false light, man. Where these disembodied spirits and entities, listen to this, man, they're coming in the guise of the gods and goddesses. They're coming in the guise of benevolence entities, and it does manifest itself. Draconians are fucking real. Insectoids are fucking real. The goddamn fucking Minotaurians are fucking real. Yeah. All this stuff. And it's a lot to get into, man, that is manifesting here into physicality. And see, one thing that was revealed to me, getting into those grid works of consciousness, Raziel is one of my patrons in those angelic grid works. The angelic grid works exist. But again, listen, man, it's a very, very small sliver of what's actually going on. But then people get caught into that, and then they think they're enlightened or they've arrived because fucking Michael, the goddamn fucking archangel, said something to them. Or Lucifer, you know what I'm saying? It's a very, very small fucking sliver. What Raziel, the keeper of the mysteries, said to me, he said, Kabbalah is bullshit. Wow. And when I had this experience, he put a flaming diamond in my chest, man. And the geometry of it is the exact shape of the true universal tree of life. If people want to check out the two-dimensional model of it, they can go on to our services page at blackearthproductions with az.com. The two-dimensional model of it. Now, I haven't even started to fucking unpack this fucking shit yet. And this is another thing people need to realize. What the ancestors have given me to unfold, it goes back to the blood codes. Boza means keepers of the sacred tree or keepers of the sacred forest. With a true universal tree of life, Midgard is right in the middle, and then it spirals out from there. But we're not going to get to that fucking point until we have mastered ourselves, until we have healed. As far as I'm concerned, everything happening up here is not reality. If Hugin and Moonin are in alignment with the soul spark, everything happening here is reality. Because this is our connection to eternity. There is nothing not potentially there for us to explore, right? Like a wise man knows that he knows nothing. Yeah. But he puts himself in the position for all things to be revealed to him as truth sanctions itself. It knows what we're fucking ready for. And it's going to drive us to the fucking edge, man. Going beyond the fucking edge. People that are experiencing this, they are going through that initiation. They're not falling into the goddamn construct. What we think is fucking sane, they're fucking insane because they don't realize what's actually happening. And a lot of these people, they are tapping the other realms. And if people aren't ready for that, you're not going to pass the trials of initiation. And it's not necessarily to say that everybody is here to do what we are doing. Right. You know what I'm saying? What are they here to do? Right. What do they have to bring to the table and offer with their gifts, skills, talents? Becoming a writer, becoming an artist or a musician or an entrepreneur or someone that's inventing something that's going to be a benefit, you know, in context to the age of Aquarius that we're coming into. The age of technology. That's why technology is so fucking vast right now, right? Aquarius, who I term the air magician. There's the magicians of the elements. Aquarius is trying to remind us of the fact that we are the true technology. We are the true technology. Okay, nature herself. And see, people that get into the conspiracy shit and they start studying a lot of the dark material and then fall into the Gnostic teaching, man. It throws people into that wheel of fucking chaos. And until people come into the place of wanting to actually heal and wanting to remember, and who wouldn't want to fucking know how they operate? God damn it. Who wouldn't want to fucking know? Like, this should be fucking going off like fucking hotcakes, man. But it's not. Because people are, you know, more concerned about bread and circuses and all that kind of fucking shit. You know, become obsessed with that. What the fuck are you doing with your life? You're not doing shit. You're not contributing anything. And if that is the extent of what being a fucking man is, then fuck this place. Fuck this place. Let it fucking burn. I don't want nothing to fucking do with this. It never worked for me, man. There was no bridge to the abyss there. Yeah. There was no bridge. And see, I grew up around it, man. I played sports growing up. You're always in the fight with yourself. Always in the fight with yourself. You are your own worst enemy. It's not that guy over there. It's you. Yeah. It's you. And so I think men encouraging and empowering one another is something that's going to be very important in the near future. Because we're not going to have any sort of wisdom council come together fucking otherwise, man. We're just going to be, competing over petty fucking shit.
Yeah.
This is my team. No, motherfucker, it's not your team. You're not even on the field playing. You're a spectator, man. Like you were talking about the people that are standing on the sidelines. They think they're a part of something. They're not. All that energy in those fucking arenas is being harvested, man.
Yeah.
And it's a major fucking question. Okay, what is it going into? It's going in to the constructs of the lower astral grid works. And the very first layer of that is black magic. Black magic. That's the very first veil. And see, people don't even want to accept that. They don't want to accept the fucking fact that we as mankind have been up against elite bloodline sorcerers that have lineages going back hundreds upon thousands of fucking years now. Okay? And they're the ones that always, got people to basically sell their own kind out. It's not going to work anymore for what's coming. If that is the extent of evolution for us, that, like I said, fuck this place. I'm getting into this, sharing this with you, because this is potentially what's meant to come. And whether or not it happens during my time here, or if it happens in 500 fucking years, I don't give a shit. All I know is that I have to say something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because this is going on video, man. This is going out into the ethers. We are on the ether net having this conversation. So you could say that beings or whatever the fuck is out there, they're listening to what we're talking about right now, man. And so in context to the hierarchical sciences and what I'm teaching with the biospiritual regenesis, this was the original purpose of coming to Earth after the cataclysms took place, and where the wisdom councils were present here in our reality field. Getting into the Maldekian flames, see, it's interesting. With the Maldekian flames, there are 8 gates and 9 worlds on the 12, which is 3. The 3 core, the 9. It's all fucking there. The Maldekian flame, why I call my services Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science, this is everything to do with Niflheim. This is Niflheim. This is the Great North. This is where everything comes from, and that's what I'm connected to, and that's only one of the Maldekian flames. There are 11 more. This is the one I'm connected to, though. It is a reflection also of the 9 worlds of Yggdrasil. There is consciousness and grid works even beyond the gods, and the gods and goddesses have been in this fucking wheel shit as well.
Yep.
Even them. And that's why they come here. That's why Odin came to me, man. That's why you've had the experiences you have. Because we're here right in the middle of it where we can fucking pretty much see every goddamn fucking thing.
Yeah.
Or not. So, if we all do that, we're not going to be, bickering and fighting like the Aesir and the Vanir. We do not have time for that shit anymore, man. So,
you painted a really great picture. One of the things I appreciate about your ability is to see what the energy is doing, which I really appreciate, especially, when you just created a picture in my mind of the stadium filled with people cheering over some paid fucking athletes kicking a ball around, and where is that energy going? It's being harvested for something else. I used to think about that a lot. I've chosen not to think about that because I didn't know what to do with it. But, I appreciate that, man. You got a connection to some really powerful stuff. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. And it's interesting. There's a quote. The Romans knew if they gave the masses bread and circuses, they would never revolt. Mm-hmm. And this is why the Romans created the Colosseum, where people get to play out their unconscious fantasy on that projection, man. Yeah. It's my team. I'm winning. And you feel like you're fucking alive. But then you go back to your real fucking life and you're a miserable piece of fucking shit because you're not doing anything fucking real. If you don't acknowledge truth, when truth reveals something to you and you reject it, you're a fucking evil motherfucker.
Yeah, well, and you become an unwitting agent.
Yeah, you're the fool walking off the cliff.
Yeah, it's great things in the movie The Matrix. It's when, there's just some guy walking down the street and the next thing you know, he's morphed into an agent. You make the conscious decision to buy into whatever takes you out of alignment with your highest awareness, and you continue to do that, you're now volunteering to be an agent at any point in time. You know, and they go, and then
I see that shit manifest with people from time to time, man. They drop into a different state of fucking mind where they become disassociated. And the extreme level of that is first and secondary psychopathy, narcissism, people that are sociopaths, the vampire. Now, is there anywhere in the Nordic tradition where they talk about the vampire?
The werewolf, because, you know, werewolf means man-wolf. And the wolf is either seen as a power source, like with the Ulfhednar, you know, where you channel the power of the wolf.
Yeah.
But that's different than being transformed into one that feeds off of other people, because that's what the werewolf does, right? It goes out and it attacks and destroys and kills and eats other people. Okay. And then the guy wakes up and he doesn't remember what he did. The wolf always has that dual role, where it represents that base appetite that can never be filled. That's what the wolf. What's his name? Fenrir is. So I think that's the closest thing that they've got to a vampire is the werewolf. Yeah, because that's a curse.
Right. Now, see, I'm going to give you my take on it.
Okay.
Because there was the war with the werewolves and the vampires. Yeah. And see, in context to Maldek, when Maldek was destroyed, that is when consciousness was fragmented. And so getting into the higher occult sciences and what I'm teaching in context to the biospiritual regenesis, we all have these shards of consciousness within our system that are the keys to the inner temple. Now, going back to what I was talking about with the werewolves and the vampires are these motherfuckers that have set up the systems of domination and control. Listen, man, one of my brother-in-laws was part of a fucking vampire cult. People that think this shit isn't fucking real, I'm telling you, it's not fucking fantasy. Blood sacrifice, human sacrifice, drinking blood, all this kind of shit that people talk about in context to the elite, those are the fucking vampires. They are completely disassociated and they have to literally devour life. They don't have anything to sustain themselves like we would if we actually made that connection to the higher force.
Yeah.
But see, they don't want to fucking do that, because in order to do that, you got to come into the light. And what was the whole thing with the vampire? When they came into the light, they were fucking destroyed. And that's what they feared the most. They feared
the sunlight, which is the light of the soul.
Right. Because they don't want to have to give up their fucking appetite. Like the poisoned wolf that just goes out and fucking just destroys everything, right? I look at the symbol of the wolf. Wolf is one of the archetypes for me as well. I mentioned the dream I had to Thomas when I was speaking with him, where I was a part of a pack. Then he talked about it being the symbol of our people. That's where the whole myth of the werewolf came from. The pagan was the evil fucking monster that was going to come to you at night and just rip you to fucking shreds, right? This is what the fucking vampires taught the fucking people from the higher level, man. And that comes down in legend and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, this is interesting.
That's an interesting take on it.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I that makes a lot of sense. You know, and no matter how you look at it, you know, if you look at it from this perspective of it's just a folk tale, the werewolf, it represents psychologically their fear of the unknown and the fear of the forbidden power. And it makes total sense that that was something that the lower class, one of their folk fears, would then be manipulated into something beyond that, which is, again, would have been used to exclude the Ulfhednar and the Berserkers and pagans, like you said. You know, it's kind of hard not to see, for me, a vampire who's not wearing a Christian cross. And I love that whole idea that, you know, that they couldn't stand the cross symbol. And I would probably be willing to bet that that's the first thing that they would put on, is the symbol of the cross.
Yeah, I like what you said about the cross just now. And it's interesting, in some of the stories and allegories that are out there, the cross doesn't have an effect. Because that's their cross. The cross that they fear is the one you're wearing around your neck right now.
Yeah. Or the one you've got, the Thor's hammer.
And so, all of that on a side note, vampirism is fucking real. I definitely encourage you to check out the work of Michael Tessarion, where he gets into psychic vampirism, man. When he came out with that, I was like, holy shit. His works are a major contribution as well. When in history has this ever fucking happened? I can't remember a time where we had the opportunity we have now. This has been fucking awesome.
Yeah.
This has been fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is. You're really inspired. Every time I talk to you, it's incredibly inspiring. You know, I have to tell you that the idea of the Wisdom Council is very appealing to me. You know, even though I've had teachers all my life, I've still kind of felt alone. Because even with my teachers, even if they had a level of ability or knowledge in whatever they were teaching that was beyond, you know, my abilities, there was still this feeling that I was seeing things and experiencing things, and I had knowledge that even they couldn't grasp. And so I've always felt kind of alone, and I felt that when I created the path that I have now. So the way you talk about the Wisdom Council, and when I hear you talk, and you know, you're able to weave an energetic understanding that I can see it again. I can see things energetically that I've closed myself off to, because after a while it was just too much. It's like I can't deal with all that. You
don't dispense with the left hemisphere.
Yeah. I mean, I could just go. Yeah, I could go.
And see, that's what happens. They just get pulled, and then it's like the left side just fell the fuck out.
Yeah.
You know. And so, in context of that, becoming whole-brained.
Yeah.
When we become whole-brained, there's mechanisms of the brain that we have not yet even fully been able to tap into, but we actually have to work with here.
Yeah. Oh, there's whole pockets in our brain that are unused.
Yeah.
I saw this in vision when I was working on the 3-1s a long time ago. I didn't realize it, but I was taking a tour of my brain, and there were all of these empty little chambers, and those chambers are to be filled with, you know, we would call them deities, but you're tapping into energies that come and, you know, sort of plugging you into all the different powers. And when all those things are lined up, you become like that picture, the guy sitting there. That's what happens when all of those things are lined up. Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So the potential of the expansion, it's arrived.
Yeah.
That is a very real arrival point at our point of navigation right now. Okay, what are we going to fucking do with this?
Yeah. Yep.
So
I've been feeling that, and I got to be honest with you, it's been frightening to me, because that's where I feel like at the end of, you know, my ability to comprehend where things can go, and then I don't know what's beyond that, to the point where it's been stressful on me physically to like go, okay, now I got to change gears. Where do I see this going? Where do I want to go? What am I willing?
Right. This is why we have to listen to the Seeress, because if we go out ahead of ourselves without adhering, it's hard for a man to feel like he's not in control.
Yeah.
Fall back into those primordial waters, man. And see, we're so afraid of it until we actually do it, and then we say to ourselves, why the fuck was I just doing this?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like, what was I so fucking afraid of? You know, when you're standing at the edge of that fucking cliff, not in context to the Fool card, but you're standing at the edge of that fucking cliff, you know you got fucking wings, but you're too afraid to fucking jump because you've never flown before.
Yeah.
Maybe you have flown in a certain capacity, but you've never flown like this.
Yeah.
And you can see it, man. I can see it too. I see it when I'm sharing it. Oh, wow, this is fucking good, man. Okay. Odin said to me, he said, tell the people we are ready. And they're listening right now. They're listening to this conversation. I swear to the fucking gods that they're fucking listening right now. Because I can feel it. I can feel the energy of Creator Source coming in. It's starting to fucking spiral, man. And so,
yeah, for those of people who are watching my channel, how can people reach you?
Yeah, people want to get a hold of me, send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com. Check out the website at blackearthproductions.com. Check out our services page. If people want a proper initiation into the occult in context to what I am here to unfold, what I am here to share with other people, which is directly connected even to what's going on your end, I definitely encourage people to do that with me. And you're going to get my take on things. Michael works with the Vedic astropsychology. I work with the Western. So we could take that tilt of the Earth at the 23.5 degree axis and start to pull it back into alignment, man. I'm working with both here, man.
I like the idea that Western astrology, soul aligning, it's the Earth relative to the sun, which is aligning with the soul. And then Vedic is whatever it is. And so, yeah, people have both of those and can look at it.
Just to be able to observe it, just to be able to explore it, allow it to show you things about yourself that you may have never even fucking known.
You know, I have run into some Western astrologers who, you know, could do some pretty fucking amazing shit. They look at your chart and they tell you where your shoes are. Yeah, I keep thinking about that. That one is, you know, and that aligning with the soul and aligning with physical.
Because in truth and in context to astropsychology, we are all the planets, we are all the signs, and we are all the houses.
Yeah.
We are all is within. All is within. But to pull things back into alignment, right? This is when the quote unquote pole shift happens within the individual. Let's see, everyone's talking about a pole shift and all this kind of shit. God damn it. That is not how we are going to heal shit. There's not going to be some sort of an event. All of a sudden, we're just magic at a fucking snap of the fucking finger right back where the fuck we're supposed to.
Even if there were, let's just say for argument's sake that there is some sort of magical thing that's going to happen outside of us. If you aren't aligned, you aren't going to make it. You'll be fucked. Yeah. So no matter how you look at it, you got to align yourself, which means you take responsibility, like you said. Everything is us. You're waiting around for something else to happen to you.
Right. Let's just entertain the idea that all of a sudden humanity fucking got this shit that we're fucking talking about and started fucking doing it. Hypothetically speaking, scientifically, even mathematically speaking, if it reached a certain point in context to the great works of consciousness, there might be an actual, real fucking physical Earth pole shift. The Earth herself is a reflection.
Yeah.
What is there within us as well. It's one of the planetary spheres. But again, the Earth was where we came originally after the fucking major shit went down in the fucking universe. This is where humans came. We didn't leave this sector. We didn't leave our position in Midgard. We have always existed. Yeah. We have always existed. That's the other fucking thing. The goddamn fucking Anunnaki didn't create mankind. That's a fucking distortion. The Kabbalah system of black magic all goes back to fucking Babylon and the Sumerian Draconian Empire. They were the ones that betrayed the wisdom councils, man. They said, we want to come in and do this, but they're fucking liars.
And isn't it interesting that when the Israeli elite, who were polytheists, when they went to Babylon in captivity, when they came back, they brought with them monotheism. That's interesting that you say that they started this whole thing, and then what comes out of that is monotheism. Yeah.
Yeah, and in context to the Sumerian Draconian Empire. See, this is what I'm calling it, Sumerian Empire.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Egypt was here long before Sumeria ever rose to fucking power.
Yeah.
And there were wars between Egypt and Sumeria, magical wars, man. Getting into what everybody talks about with Atlantis and Lemuria. And see, all of the landmass of the world was at one time all together, man. Yeah. You can take South America and Africa and put them together like goddamn fucking puzzle pieces, man. So that shift from the axis that the Earth is meant to be in alignment with, where it's in alignment with everything else, and then it goes out on the fucking spiral back in connection to the true universal tree. This is something that has never happened. It happens with individuals, and it can start to happen with individuals. But on a massive fucking scale, this is something that I don't think can happen on the level that it could unless everyone had access to this knowledge that we're sharing today. You know what I'm saying? This knowledge I'm getting into with you, the dark ones don't have access to this.
Yeah.
Because if they did, they wouldn't do what they do. They're fucking stupid, man. They're dark children that need to grow the fuck up and wake the fuck up as well. I give no power or credence to to any of them. The evil we know, but okay, what about what's beyond it? See, this is what we fear the most, because we have to take that responsibility. We have to take that responsibility to pull things back into alignment, man. So again, if people want to get a hold of me, send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com. Check out the website, blackearthproductions.com. Services page. Check out the blog, Apothekia. We got a lot more coming, man. It's developing. I'm going at pace, and I'm working to be in support with other people that are going similar direction. I'm still getting fucking started with this, but being able to get into this with you has been a major cause point for me remembering what my true blood code, lineage, and connection to everything that we're talking about is. It is the ground here in Midgard, able to see everything else in trajectory and go, okay. And I do get visions, and I do have very powerful fucking dream states, and I go into that Seith trance where I'm convulsing and you know, speaking divine language, and it takes you the fuck over, man.
Yeah.
And I really like what you talk about Galdr being the interpretation.
Yeah. Being
the wisdom that comes in, and then, okay, here's the fucking map. I am able to do both. It's also there with you, man.
You're right. I was just sitting there thinking that it is, and I'm realizing that on an energetic level, I made the decision to shift more towards Galdr, because you can get lost in Seith. You can just it can just take you over, and you can't find your grounding.
Once quarantine was lifted in 2012, man, that's when everything else was open the fuck up. I remember some very, very fucked up shit fucking happening, man. And there was not one day that whole entire fucking year that I did not weep profusely. What I realize now is that I was going through the process of initiation, making connection back to my true core essence.
Yeah.
The process of initiation for true shamans, you're going to get ripped to fucking shreds.
Yeah.
It is meant for everybody to be in the position to heal and pull out of this fucking victim mentality and learn to remember who they are and why they actually incarnated and unfold what they're here to unfold. It's an amazing tapestry, man. When it all comes together, shit, man, I can't even wrap my mind around the beauty of that. I can feel it. But again, that's something that's never happened. And so again, whether it happens in our time or if it happens in 500 years or whatever, eventually it's going to. If people like you and I have the fucking balls to fucking do this shit for real. And the men are waking the fuck up.
What a privilege and an honor. Let's keep doing this.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, I'll be in contact with you, man. And excited to see what you got coming in the future. And hopefully conversation has sparked even more about the AC and the Vanir. I really feel like I've been able to retain the wisdom that's actually there in that what the Seeress was explaining in the Voluspa, man. This is a reminder to the feminine out there. Don't be in fear. There are men here that get it.
Yeah.
And we're here to give strength so that you can heal and not be afraid of your true power. I think this would be a really good place to plug everything you're doing, man.
Thunderwizard.com is where I teach shamanism, teach you how to create a thunder wheel, which is an 8-sided power center, a sacred place. I teach you how to work with all of the 9 worlds, how to deal with all of the entities of all of the 9 worlds, how to do energy work, how to work with runes, mantra. The whole idea of it is to give you the ability to intend your reality. You can also go to michaelwilliamdenney.com if you want to find out all of my books, if you want all my videos. Of course, I have the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, and there's stuff on there for free. We've been talking about some deep, powerful stuff. There's stuff I've got on the free channel, teachings that are forbidden to be taught. I don't tell you which ones they are, but if you can find them, if you're destined to, and you practice them, you can become, all these things that we've been talking about. So I guess, let's see, anything else? michaelwilliamdenney.com, thunderwizard.com. If you want an astrological reading from me, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. those are probably the most helpful to people. So.
And with that, Michael, I would like to thank you for coming on once again to Black Earth Productions, and I just want to thank you for everything you're doing. It's very powerful and very fucking awesome, man. So,
thank you. Likewise, my friend. Incredibly powerful shaman, and you have both going on. You're a shaman and a wizard. You got the Seith and the Galdr in you, which is pretty rare and pretty powerful. I have to tell you, just talking with you always just shoots me up into another level of awareness and power. Let's keep doing this.
Cool, man.